My daughter's grandparents want custody. For a little backstory, I, 31 male, met Beth, 30 female, when we were in middle school. We became quick friends and saw each other every day. We did everything together and made a pact to always help each other. Like she would help me talk to girls and I made sure she was safe at bars. She was the kindest person I knew and was my person. When we were in college, Beth got pregnant with Jenny, 7 female, from her boyfriend at the time. She was excited at first, but her parents and the father were against her having the baby. Beth stood firm that she wanted to keep it. Because of this, Jenny's father left her, saying he wasn't ready to be a father, and never came back, and her parents threw her out and told her to not come back. It was a very hard time, but I told her I'd never leave her, so we moved in together and we decided to do it together like everyone else we did. The day Jenny was born was probably the best day of my life. I'll never forget the first time I saw that girl's eyes, and even though she wasn't mine, I felt like I was hers. I was her uncle until she started calling me Dad, which we took as a joke, but we never really stopped her. Our little family was unconventional, but it was ours. 2 months ago, Beth was killed in a car accident. It was the worst day of my life. Beth and I were never together, but she was my soulmate, my better half, my everything. She was the best mother and person I've ever known. I still can't completely describe the way I feel. Immediately, I became Jenny's legal guardian. It's been hard to adjust to it just being me, and I'm so lost, but want to do my best for Jenny. Which brings me to last night, when Beth's parents showed up at my door wanting to see Jenny. They want to be a part of Jenny's life and regret what they did to Beth, which I completely understand. But last night they told me that they think it's best if they take legal custody of Jenny because they're real family. They hadn't been involved in Jenny's life at all before then, and only met her for the first time at Beth's funeral. I didn't know what to say and told them to leave, which made them angry, and they told me they want to keep talking about it or they'll take me to court. I've been so anxious all night I can't sleep. I've been Googling to see if it's possible for them to even take her just like that. She's my baby and I'm the family she's always known. Beth and I never really talked about the legality of my role because I was just her dad, plain and simple, but maybe we should have. I don't know who to turn to or what to do. I never thought I'd do any of this alone. I'm just scared and I miss Beth so much. Yeah, that's hard. But if he's Jenny's legal guardian, then surely the grandparents don't have that much of a case, right? I don't know, I'm not exactly a legal expert. Let's look at the comments. Lawyer up now, and please update. My family just went through a horrible custody battle after a tragic loss. Things mostly worked out, but it was extremely costly and dragged on for months. Get the best lawyer you can afford, and see if you can petition to adopt her. Get a lawyer. Find all the proof you have that they haven't had anything to do with her ever and how they treated Beth. It will play a part in showing that they chose to have no relationship with her and only chose to come up now and disrupt a child's life worse than what it is. If you're in the US, let's hope your state doesn't have grandparents' rights. I'm so sorry for all you're going through, but don't give up and don't talk to them unless it's through a lawyer. Lawyer, you are the legal guardian and they have not been involved in Jenny's life after they kicked Beth out. They do not get to do a redo with a child they don't even know. You may have to give visitation, depending on what state you're in. Lawyer now. I'm so sorry for your loss. I understand you are panicked and upset, but judges do not like to disrupt children's lives. As the person who has raised her, taken care of her, and as the person she knows to be dad, you have all the cards. Judges don't want to put children in the hands of strangers just because it's blood. Family court looks heavily on the stability of the child. She's in school as well, and that is also in your favour. Are you listed on the school paperwork? Any of her medical records? Was she ever in daycare? Were you on that paperwork? You are in better standing than you realise, but you must consult with a family law attorney immediately. Yeah, I think we all kind of get the general consensus there in the comments. Let's go to the update. I'm sorry it's been so long and that I never updated. After I posted that thread last year, I read the comments, made my notes, and frankly, I just forgot about it. I intended to come back and update, but I didn't feel like there was enough to say, and then it slipped my mind. I had more important things to do, helping my daughter adjust and just trying to stay sane. But after the anniversary of Beth's death, along with the news I'm sharing below, I remembered and felt really bad, so I'm sorry for not coming back. Before I give my update, I wanted to clear some things up. We do not live in the continental United States. Beth's parents, let's call them Mary and Larry, are really devout Catholics and couldn't stand that she had relations outside of a marriage, and especially since Jenny's dad took himself out of the equation. That's why they kicked Beth out. I've been co-parenting Jenny for her whole life and contributed 50% of everything. I'm committed to give that girl a good life. My parents have always been supportive and have been pivotal in this whole ordeal. They saw Beth as a daughter and see Jenny as a granddaughter. It's nice to have them. I had always been labelled as a caregiver in her school records. I held her when she was born. Birthdays, her little kindergarten graduation, her first trip to Disney, I have pictures of it all. There are none with Mary or Larry in them. Beth purposely threw away everything she had of them. Not that she had much to begin with. I'd been dating someone at the time when everything started, but I realised I didn't have the emotional bandwidth to be good to her, and I needed to prove stability in my home life. She understood, and we ended things respectfully. We may reconnect someday, but my love life is not my priority. I talked with Jenny about the situation, and from the start, she understood what they are to her. It broke my heart to hear her say, "Why would they do that to Mummy?" Jenny and me are in therapy right now. While I'm not 100%, I know that I have to be strong for Jenny. But here's the update. After reading your comments, I did exactly like some of you said. I talked with her school and told them what was happening. I've known the staff there for years. My mum is a school counsellor, and they were so good about Beth's death. Anyway, I told them that I, and only I, was allowed to pick her up from school. Thankfully, the grandparents never tried anything like taking her. They have not been allowed to spend time with or around her, and that was on Jenny's request. I respect her wants. They did send her Christmas and birthday presents, but I hid them. I didn't know if accepting something from them would hurt this situation. I haven't given them to her yet. It's been so long, and I'm not sure I will at this point. After my post, I talked with some lawyers around the city. Honestly, I spent a lot of money on this, but it was way worth it. Beth had a will and requested for Jenny to be cared for by me upon her death. She never told me this, and I still don't exactly understand it, but it was a really happy surprise. My lawyer honoured that and helped me. I took a loan out, but the debt is worth it. I compiled everything I could. Pictures, permission slips, stupid school mail, everything. Grandparents tried to fight me the whole way through, calling social services and talking to all of my neighbours, trying to find anything possible to prove I was a bad father. It was brutal and messed up. I don't think I'll ever recover for the past year. I could deal with the attacks on my character and them scrutinising everything I've ever done, as if Mary and Larry have always cared. However, in April, once Jenny came into the conversation and was asked awful questions about me, I couldn't help but double down. Part of me is embarrassed and ashamed that I begged. At the meeting, after Jenny was taken out of the room, all I could do was cry. I said something like, "Please, I beg of you, think about Jenny here. Take you and me out of the equation. Take what you did to Beth out of the equation. Jenny does not deserve this. Think about her, please. If you want to make it up to Beth, as you say, think about what's best for Jenny. I've loved her for her whole life. I've been there. I've held her. She is everything to me. I know you have regret. Be good now. Love Beth now. Respect her wishes. Please." The next part is probably anticlimactic, but dear reader, can you believe that it worked? Larry looked down at his hands in what I can only describe as shame, and asked to speak with the lawyer privately. When I came back, Larry admitted that they'd made a mistake all those years ago, and it wasn't until Beth's death that he realised it. He was tired of fighting. Mary didn't seem too happy, but they dropped everything. Since then, we've had no contact. I guess guilt runs deep. But on to the good news. Last month, it became official. I am now legally Jenny's father. I've been working on the adoption since Christmas. I can't begin to describe how happy this makes me. Jenny has been getting better and is slowly getting back to her usual bright self, but I can see moments when she shuts down, like sadness washing over her. That worries me, but we're working with a therapist on this. I still miss Beth, and I'll miss her every day of my life. All I can do to honour her is to make sure Jenny has a home and is loved beyond measure. I will tell Jenny about her mum and how every time she smiles, I see her. Thank you for all of the messages in the comments. I'm sorry I didn't respond to them before. Thank you for your support and your faith in me. It means a lot to be supported, even if by some people in the void of the internet. Okay guys, and that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts down below. A really good ending there, that makes me happy. I mean, even the parents fessed up and admitted they made a mistake all those years ago. That's rare. Anyway, yeah, give me your thoughts about that one and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was posted on r/infidelity. It was written by user Majestic Camel and it's titled, "My wife cheated, but no sex and confessed. Is there any hope?" A couple nights ago, my wife of 2 years, together 6, went to a metal show with a friend who was providing a professional service to the band, so she got to hang backstage beforehand for a couple hours. I didn't think much of this. She's done this before. It's a buddy system type thing, so her friend isn't alone with men she doesn't know, and my wife gets to see and meet bands she's into. She texted me throughout like usual. She seemed off when she got home that night, but just said she was extremely tired and it was super late, so I didn't think much of it. The next morning she confesses to me in tears that she ended up alone with one of the band guys for maybe half an hour, and they ended up talking, then flirting, then more. The extent of what happens is she sat in his lap, they made out, and she felt up the outline of his dick through his pants. He asked for more, and asked her to meet him after the show. She claims she said no to both. She says I can contact her friend to fact check that they left together immediately after the show, but I haven't contacted her yet. She can't exactly give me a reason why this happened. She's a fan and was flattered by the attention, and was just caught up in the moment, and it was a mistake, etc. I mostly believe her that's all that happened, but I'm having trouble imagining that I can get past this. I feel sick and like I'm in shock. I don't feel angry right now, and I can tell my wife is hurting and guilty. I want to try and give this a chance at least, but I have no idea where to start. Has anyone had success with something like this, or should I trust my gut reaction that I'll never feel the same about her? I think this post was deleted from another sub, but I'm desperate to connect with someone over this. I'm too ashamed to talk to my friends about it. Ooh, this ain't good. Let's see what the comments think. I toured with rock and roll bands for many years. I've dropped women off at home the next morning and had them ask me what they're going to tell their boyfriend and husband. You aren't getting the full story, and you probably never will. Her friend will never tell the truth either. I truly doubt all she did was feel him up through his pants. These band guys have groupies waiting for them all the time. She was excited that he picked her. At the very least, she gave him oral and probably got nothing in return, hence the total guilt. She feels used, and that's where the confession came from. I agree with many of the other posters concerning reconciliation. It's a hard road. Only you can decide. The rules others have laid down are the minimum starting point. I honestly do not believe the no sex part. Would she be okay with open phone policy? Cut that friend out and absolutely no more concerts or events without you? Ask for her messages, especially to her friend, and look to see if there are gaps where they may have been deleted. Good luck. Okay, straight to the update. I'm sorry if it's too soon for an update, but I got a lot more info, so figured I should share for the people that read my first post. Thank you all for the advice and just reading my story. If nothing else, I feel less alone in this. I figured she would just lie, but I decided to reach out to my wife's friend anyway. She asked if she could call me and that I should take it somewhere private, so I went out to my car. Here's how she told me things went down. I put all this in order as the convo was very jumbled. Prior to the show, my wife made some comments to the friend that the band guy was attractive and asked her friend if she thought she had a chance, hypothetically. Friend said she thought it was odd but figured she was being light and jokey. The band guy, who was 55 by the way, and my wife were flirting heavily and openly in front of the friend the whole time backstage, to the point where the friend texted my wife asking her WTF her problem was. Friend left them alone, not even close to a half hour, maybe 10 to 15 minutes while she went to her car to put her supplies back, and came back to find them, as my wife described, sitting in his lap and making out. Prior to leaving them alone, she had asked my wife to go with her, and my wife repeatedly refused. They broke it upon friend coming back. Band guy thanked friend for her services, but called her a cockblock. He asked if they wanted to party after the show, to which the friend said no, and my wife said yes. Friend practically dragged my wife back to her car after the show, and only then did my wife begin to panic about friend possibly telling me. Friend told her she wasn't sure what she would do. But her friend is ticked at my wife and told me she's decided to cut her off. She feels she made her look unprofessional and like a groupie herself, and she's very mad she had to walk to her car alone at night because of her, and she's disappointed in her for cheating like that. So there you have it. It's likely my wife didn't do anything more than what she said, but she definitely would have. She lied about it and tried to get ahead of the truth. Yeah, I'm done, I'm pretty sure. One commenter says, "Sorry to hear it, man. There's no reason to stay with her after this. She didn't confess because she felt guilty. She confessed because her friend caught her. It wasn't a drunk mistake. It was premeditated." Opie replies, "She even apologized for not seeing the signs sooner and stopping things before it came to this. I meant to mention that. I haven't even told her I know yet. I've barely spoken to her. She is sleeping in the guest room and has been told I need space for now. Also, it's so petty, but it makes me feel slightly better that she didn't get laid at least. Like she's going to lose her marriage and hopefully home, and she didn't get to F the other guy. That's something, I guess." Okay, on to the final update. I'm going to try and keep this brief. I know I said I was done, but I just wanted to update since a number of people have asked. I appreciate again all your kind words and support. I asked my wife to give me a few days to think things over alone. She went to stay with a friend. She would blow my phone up every other day or so, alternating between being apologetic and angry with me. She told her family I kicked her out. I eventually told them why, but I don't think they believed me. I did decide to divorce her. I have a lawyer and getting ready to start the process. I'm not sure how that's going to shake out for me yet, but I don't feel I have another option. Whatever happens, I'm just glad we don't have kids together. I informed her and she hit the roof. We went through every stage. Her crying and apologizing and making promises, to getting angry and trying to make me sound crazy and downplaying what happened. She said some awful things, how no one else would love me and what a failure I am for giving up on 2 marriages. Yes, this is my second marriage. Eventually I just hung up and haven't taken her calls since. She had a case to stay in the house, of course, but she's opting to move in with family. I left for the day while she packed her things to avoid her. I don't think she even has a lawyer yet, so things are sluggish, and even texting her is terrible, so I think I'm going to go no contact and just have my lawyer communicate for me. This part is petty, but it's the only thing making me feel a little better right now. I met with her friend, the one who informed me, and her wife for a beer. She's still friends with my wife's other friends and let me in on some gossip. Wife has tried hitting up the musician on Instagram and has gotten nothing back. She's deluded that they had a connection. It's almost sad. Her friends all think she's crazy and fricked up hugely by doing this. They make fun of her behind her back. It's kind of brutal. So her telling me how sorry she is and still trying to get with this other guy is sick, but I know I made the right decision. I'm not going to lie, I'm in a really bad place. I just don't know how I could be so wrong about someone. I know all of the advice about working on myself, but right now, I'm just getting through the days. Another commenter says, "Dude, I'm sorry that you're going through this. I remember reading your story. You were doing what you need to do to protect yourself. You didn't give up on a second marriage. She gave up on it when she cheated. Hang in there and know that you've got people pulling for you." Opie replies, "Thank you. My first marriage wasn't bad. We just got together super young, had kids super young, and drifted apart. She's a good person. Now I wish I'd fought harder for that marriage, to be honest. Hanging in there, thanks. Nothing much has changed." Alright folks, and that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts down below. Yeah, I think after reading the first post, it was kind of always inevitable and it was going down this path. Things like this are almost never how they're originally described. You know, they're either huge misunderstandings or worse than what was actually described. There's no in between, really. Turns out this one was worse. Am I wrong to tell my 14-year-old daughter the truth about her aunt? Sorry this is long, but the background is important. Okay, so 23 years ago last month, my youngest sister Anna moved in with her third college roommate in as many years. For context, both my middle sister Cora and I had the same roommate all 4 years of college. The new roomie, Bree, was cute, smart as hell, and new to dorm life. Bree's brother Ed moved her in and I moved Anna in. I was 27 at the time. Anna and Bree were 20 and Ed was 22. Anna and Ed really hit it off, and Ed asked Anna to dinner that night. Jokingly, I asked Bree out as well. Anna thought I was being serious and basically pushed Bree and I out the door. Ed and Anna never left the room. Bree and I went out for dinner, and when I say I fell in love, I'm not kidding you, I was done for. I ordered dessert just to keep the conversation going. I lived only 20 minutes from their campus in a house I had bought myself. I asked Bree if she would like to come over, and for the first time in my adult life, I was turned down by a chick. But turned down or not, I was hooked, and started asking Bree out regularly. Ed was a grad student on campus, and he and Anna also kept dating. The girls were in their junior year, but since they were both dating the other's brother, they lived together for their senior year too. Bree and I got engaged that October, and that is when Anna's switch flipped. Ed was still in grad school, and Anna was going to have at least one more semester of college because she had to change her major so much. They were in no position to get engaged. Anna was a constant pain in the behind during the wedding planning. She tried to cancel vendors, change orders, and even attempted to destroy Bree's dress. Ed threatened to break up with her if she didn't stop. She did. But the day of the wedding, she tried to spill something, I still don't know what, on Bree's dress, but it went on her own instead. She missed the whole wedding changing. At the reception, my sister Cora and Bree's brother Dean, older than Ed and Bree, got engaged. All planned by Dean and Bree since both families were going to be there. Anna again had a fit, but calmed down at the thought of getting engaged at Cora's wedding. Ed didn't want to ruin the day anymore, so he kept quiet. Later, after Bree and I were gone, Ed caught Anna in a closet with a family friend, doing the nasty. Ed, of course, broke up with her. Anna threw a fit, destroyed the venue, and ruined Cora and Dean's engagement party. For 10 years, Anna was in our lives with the cycle of men she would cheat on, rotating jobs, and having total meltdowns, making our lives miserable. It all ended when she was arrested for fraud and spent the last 13 years out of our lives. Now she is back. My and Bree's youngest asked me why Aunt Anna and I don't get along. Anna had told her some lies, and my daughter was confused because one involved Uncle Ed cheating on Anna. I sat down and told my 14-year-old the story I typed here. My wife thinks she's too young to be told all this. Am I wrong? Edit to add. When Anna got out of prison, she showed up at the family dinner uninvited and seemed to get all the kids, mine and Cora's, into conversations. Since all the kids share uncles, the eldest called BS early. It's the 14-year-old who questioned me. All of Cora's kids called BS. Anna isn't supposed to be around the kids anymore. Second edit. My wife wants me to add that our daughter's BS meter is not broken. She called BS on me when I said my wife is the first woman to turn me down. Okay, let's see what the comments say. I hate to break it to you, but your 14-year-old is a lot smarter than you and your wife give her credit for. Telling the truth is always the best, and it lets her know not to go anywhere near Anna. I see a restraining order in your future. Opie replies, We had one years ago, but it has expired. I filed for one a week ago and hope to have it approved after the long weekend. I agree, she's a lot smarter than my wife gives her credit for. I felt she could handle all of the truth, but my wife cut me off. I had so much more to tell her. I think the fact that she is my wife's last baby makes Bree a lot more protective of her. I need a link chart for this. So 3 siblings, Anna, Cora and OP, all dated 3 siblings, Ed, Dean and Bree. Cora and Dean and OP and Bree got married. Cora and Dee got engaged at OP and Bree's reception, which also became Cora and Dean's engagement party. Anna cheated and she and Ed broke up. Anna became a criminal, absent from the family, now back. Is Ed married to another sister? Is there another brother for Anna? I don't think you're wrong, but I don't know how she followed all of that. I would have checked out. Opie replies. Ed married a wonderful woman. We love her. If Anna is married or dating, I don't know. I literally saw her for the first time in 13 years a little over a week ago. After we left our reception, everyone stayed to celebrate the engagement until Anna vandalized the place. We redo the engagement party later. Not wrong. I have a sister similar to Anna. I told my children age-appropriate truth about her so they would be better prepared against her BS and manipulation. We've been no contact with her for almost 18 years now. Opie responds, I feel bad that I've basically pretended like Anna didn't exist for the past 13 years. My parents have maybe one photo of her in their house, and it's from when she was really young. The rest are of the grandkids. I'm not sure a photo of me or Cora is in the house. We stopped existing the day we had kids, so I guess one reason I word vomited tonight was my daughter had never heard of Anna, and last week, here's your Aunt Anna, Dad's sister that he never acknowledges. My other two, 19 male and 17 female, have memories of her and not good ones. I wish I had done what you did and told her more when she was younger. Okay, let's go straight to the update. It happened today, and I'm not sorry. The restraining order was denied because the judge is a softie. We filed an appeal before leaving. While we were filing the appeal, Anna rushed to the school and tried to pull my teenager out early. My daughter was at lunch with friends in the outside eating area. It's gated, but the video shows Anna walking up to the gate, speaking to my daughter, and then walking to the office. Now, I'm very glad I told the truth, and my wife is as well. Our daughter pretended to gather her things and walk to the office to meet Anna, but instead told the teacher her aunt is crazy and trying to kidnap her. The police were called, Anna was arrested, and I bet we get our restraining order tomorrow. The school acted quickly and perfectly, keeping my daughter and the rest of the students safe. I'm grateful I talked to my daughter, and I get to hear the words every husband longs for from his wife. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. My wife actually said those words. My daughter is safe. Anna is back behind bars, and my wife admitted I was right. I thought today was going to be bad, but it turned out aces. Thanks to this community for listening. This has been good for me. Edits are added the last 3 hours. I'm shaken, and so is all of our family. I just calmed down enough to post. Almost as soon as I hit post, there was a knock on my door, and it was the sheriff. For background, we know him. Dean, Ed and Bree were raised by their grandfather, the former sheriff, and the current sheriff has known them his entire career. The family had gathered because we wanted to support each other. Anna had also attempted to remove Ed's 14-year-old daughter from school. The girls were upset, so we were all together. What the sheriff shared baffles me. Anna had drugs and a gun in the car she was driving. We don't know what she had planned or how she got the gun. We all looked at a picture, and it's not the one we've ever seen. Anna will be arraigned tomorrow on charges of attempted kidnap, possession with intent, and bringing a weapon onto school grounds. I can't begin to tell you how shaken we are or scared I am for my children. My son is 2 hours away at college, but he's coming home to be with his sister and us. I'm very proud of my daughter. She asked if she'd be allowed to speak at the arraignment, and the sheriff has promised to ask. I'm not sure if it's allowed, but I'm proud she wants to stand up for herself. We have to be at the courthouse tomorrow at 9 a.m. and wait for Anna's case to be called. They have to arraign her within 24 hours of arrest, so we know it will be before noon. Her trial may take up to 2 years to be prosecuted. Her fraud trial was 3 years long, but this part is quick. They're asking for no bail as no one will take her into their homes. My mother and father are beside themselves, absolutely devastated and blaming themselves. A mark of the amazing woman Ed ended up with is knelt in front of my parents and told them it was not their fault. Anna has asked to speak to our parents, Cora and myself, but at this point we all have declined. We are too angry, too upset, and too hurt. I'll update tomorrow after the hearing. And now for some more comments from OP. Someone asks, why did you file for the protection order? How did you know you'd need it? Did she threaten anyone? OP says, we first got one in 2006. Anna was out on bail in her fraud trial. Her ex-boyfriend bailed her out, not anyone in our family. We'd just bought our house. Anna came over ranting about how we stole her life and threw bricks through the windows. One missed my son, now 19, by inches. Bree ran and hid in a closet with him and our almost newborn. I think she was 3 weeks old until the cops got there. I didn't get to share that with my daughter. My wife cut me off. That got us the first one. It expired while she was in prison, so she was not breaking yet, showing up to dinner. She threw a nut fit about me kissing my wife the night of dinner. I filed that Monday but couldn't get a hearing on it for a week. Since the judge didn't think her behaviour was enough, we lost. Anna lost her mind and went straight to the school. Another commenter says, "I'm so sorry this is happening to you. Kudos to you and your wife, and Ed and his wife, for having the forethought to call the school and for telling Gwen about Anna's unstableness. Let's hope she gets many more years in jail and never sees you or your families again." Question: are your parents finally able to see how sick Anna is, or are they still in denial? Opie replies, "My parents have always seen problems. They paid for therapy for years for Anna, had her evaluated for mental illness, punished her actions, called her out for misbehaviour, the list goes on. They have never been in denial. They always expected Anna to suffer the consequences of her actions and never once have bailed Anna out. Even when she stole a candy bar at 11, she had to confess to the store owner and pay for it from her money. My parents are not the typical boomer parents who needed the commercial reminding them they had kids. They were super involved and did everything to get Anna help early and often. Anna just never learned." Okay, now for the final update. Today my younger sister was arraigned for attempting to kidnap my daughter. For clarity, my daughter's name will be Gwen. For anyone following my posts, I'm naming people A, B, C, D, E, G. I skipped F because I'm not creative enough to get a female name my daughter won't hate me for. So, if you have ever had to go to arraignment court, what happens is everyone is let in at 8:45 a.m. and you have to wait for the case to be called. Anna's lawyer asked my parents, me and Cora to meet with Anna as she was pleading guilty to some of the charges and would not be released today. My wife and her brothers agreed we should go and maybe get some answers. We got no answers, only rantings of how we're horrible people to keep her out of her family and that we abandoned her. We turned her niece against her and we resent the fact that she's so much better of a human being than we are. My mother is a mess. She hasn't been able to stop crying. We waited for a long time and Anna was the last case before the lunch break. The judge made a statement about yesterday's judge and how we should have walked out here with an order of protection. He also said he doubted an OOP would have helped. He ordered a psych evaluation before trial. He read a report that said she was okay for arraignment, so he proceeded. He did allow Gwen and her cousin Helen to speak. I've tried to attach a photo of what Gwen wrote, but Helen decided not to speak at the last minute. From Gwen. My name is Gwen. Until yesterday, school was my safe place. I never worried about anything. I'm not Miss Popular, but I have good friends and my classmates are good people. Yesterday, someone who should love me, who should want to protect me, took away my safe place. I have aunts who would jump into fire to save me. Now I know I have one who would push me in. I only met her 10 days ago. In that short time, she has shaken my foundations. I am asking this court to make right what she stole, and please keep her away from me and my family. I'm only 14, but in the past 10 days, I feel like I've aged 20 years. I know Anna wants me to ask for mercy, but that is not safe for me to do. To say I'm proud of my little girl doesn't begin to cover it. Yes, her brother, sister and cousins did help her, but she read this in a courtroom in front of the judge. Anna did attempt to interrupt what was threatened with contempt. Anna pleaded guilty to possession charges. She fought the attempted kidnap. Her argument is that the school would have never released the girls to her based on how the school policies, and therefore she had no reasonable expectation of success. However, she was the last case on the docket by design. While one solicitor was in arraignment court, another one was in with the grand jury. About 20 minutes before Anna was called, she was indicted on kidnapping charges. The judge actually smiled when they denied bail. Yes, everyone is getting therapy. It is likely 2 years before Anna's trial because of the motions and legal blah blah. So when we left the courthouse about an hour ago, this ends this crazy 10-day ride of Hurricane Anna. Thank you to everyone for your support and advice. My family and I enjoyed your comments. While we thought joining Reddit to vent about Anna would just be for fun, we should have remembered this is Anna, and nothing is fun around her. She can suck the joy from every experience. Alrighty guys, and that's the end of that one. Geez, what a nightmare family member. I'm glad to hear that it's kind of resolved itself though. What do you guys think about this one? Let me know down below. Alright, let's go to our next story. Okay, this next one's from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user OptimalAd, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for making my boyfriend get out of the car when he made a comment about my dead mum? We've been together 10 months, live together and argue pretty frequently about different things, but this time the line was definitely crossed. The story starts with his car getting towed. We don't know why and he's upset. I know it sucks getting a car towed, so I offered to give him a ride, help out however I can, and continued to be nice to him in spite of him not being very nice to me. I take him there. We wait until he gets to the front of the line. Then he tells me to take him to his mother's so he can get money, then to the bank to deposit it, which is 30 minutes away. So I take him to do that, and he's still being rude to me, saying it's my fault his car got towed, how I took the easy way out, which I guess is defined as paying my $8 monthly parking fee on time, blaming me for what's out of my control. At this point, it's been about 3 hours. He still hasn't thanked me for what I did, and I felt unappreciated. After the bank, we agreed his mum should take him back to the tow place, so I started heading back that way. I then asked him what the address was, and he said he didn't know. I asked, "You don't know where your mum lives?" And he replied, "At least I have a mum." For context, my mother committed suicide when I was 3 years old, and my father just passed away in June. Their deaths are something I'm still coping with, so when he said that, my B switch flipped on and I pulled the car over, telling him to get out and walk. I understand that didn't help the situation at all, and he had the right to be angry to begin with, but his car being towed was completely out of my hands, and I don't think I deserve to be treated that way. Literally not even an hour before we figured out his car was gone, we were out shopping and laughing, and all around having a good day. The comment was unnecessary in my opinion, but maybe I should have just cut him some slack and given him a ride. Am I the a-hole? Well, honestly, I think that would have crossed a line for me as well. Especially given the nature of the death. That's just tragic. Let's see what the comments think. Not the a-hole. He had a right to be angry? No, he did not, at all. You were trying to help him, and the whole time he was unappreciative. Put the comment on top of that, which is a horribly rude comment and kind of disgusting, and you've got yourself a pure a-hole. Kick him to the curb literally and figuratively. Dump his grumpy ass. You did right. Don't put up with it longer. Not the a-hole. Dump that dude. You already said you argue a lot, and he's not willing to accept responsibility for something that is his fault. Then he wants to insult and shame you to boot? FYI, if you ever get pregnant by him, he won't accept that responsibility either. He sounds like a real piece of something, and it was smart for you to kick his entitled ass out on the side of the road. I've reread your post several times, and I can't figure out what exactly he had the right to be angry about at you. He's not nice to you, your own words. You argue frequently, and he uses you as his emotional punching bag to vent his anger. Please consider not letting him back into your car, or life. Not the a-hole for kicking him out of your car. Only the a-hole to yourself if you continue to put up with his bullcrap. Yeah, honestly, 100% true, those comments. Let's go to the update. If you didn't read part 1, I left a link for it. Before I get into it, I just want to say thank you for the advice and support. It's nice to know I'm not crazy or the only person going through something like this. For those of you asking, I'm female 21 and he's male 23. Most of you will be happy to know we are no longer together. We went to the apartment office, signed the necessary papers, and he'll be moving out within the next 60 days. I will be taking over the lease for the 2-bedroom. Until he moves out, he's staying in the guest room. We still have not spoken since that day. I've never felt more confident about this decision. I would have done it a lot sooner because he's said and done some pretty crappy things that tested my limits. My excuse was I've never been in a serious relationship for that long before. I thought it would work out and things would change. That day really woke me up and made me realize I deserved better than what I was getting. What we had was not love, and any feelings I had for him before are gone. Lastly, thank you for the condolences in regards to my late parents. My home life was always a bit rocky. I wish some things happened differently, as one can imagine. It's a touchy subject, and I definitely do not tolerate anybody making any sort of derogatory comments towards them, especially not from somebody who's supposed to be the love of my life. What makes his comment even more irritating is the fact he never met either one of my parents. My dad lived in a different state from us when he was alive, which was the main reason why. To be quite frank, I don't think my parents would have liked him anyway. As for me, I'm just trying to figure out how to love myself again. I don't have any interest in pursuing another relationship or anything sexually. I've been 21 for about 6 months now and haven't even been to any good bars or clubs with my friends. As a matter of fact, I've barely been able to spend time with any friends or family since we've been together. I definitely plan on making each day count with the loved ones I have left. Alrighty, and that's that. Yeah, pretty good outcome there. Opie's still really young and has her whole life ahead of her. The earlier the better in regards to weeding out the toxicity in your life, I think.
I made it so they won't ever get a job in their chosen degree. So I was bullied mercilessly in school by a group of 3 girls. This lasted for over a decade. They went out of their way to make my life miserable, and I even skipped days of school on a weekly basis because I was so afraid of them. It's been 3 years since then, and I recently saw that 2 of them got degrees. The other isn't important. We'll call the 2 Katie and Becky. I'm trying to get over what they did, and I'm in therapy and on a few different anxiety and depression medications. So, when I saw that they'd got degrees, I tried to look past it, but the degrees they got both angered me and worried me. Katie got an animal care degree, and Becky got a degree to be a mental health nurse. I thought it was just a joke, but I was wrong. I didn't know what I was doing at first, but once I started, I couldn't stop. I wrote a long status on Facebook about what I'd endured at their hands. Cliff notes. 1. My phone was thrown in the sink at school. 2. They'd kick at my ankles in sport classes. 3. They'd comment on my weight, glasses, crooked teeth and home life. 4. They made a category at prom for most likely to end themselves, and I was the only candidate. It was coincidentally taken out before tutors could see. 5. They would hide my sport clothes and replace them with some that were too small. 6. They locked me in the gym cupboard until after lunch when another class came to use it. No proof, but I knew it was them. 7. They'd follow me home and try to barge me into the roads. 8. They'd stab my arms with pens and pencils in class. These are just the few I mentioned in my post. There are a lot more, and some a lot worse. I tagged them in the post and mentioned their names many times, and pinned it to the top of my page. A lot of people are telling me I'm being petty, and I know I am, but I don't care. There was an argument in the comments between us, and so many other people are on all sides, but it soon stopped. I didn't take the post down. Out of nowhere, Becky messaged me privately, apologising for what she put me through, and the time, blaming it on youth and immaturity. She asked if I could take the post down, and that she'd grown as a person since then, only 3 years after the prom category thing. I was contemplating taking the post down, but not even a day later, I found out her true intentions. In my country, a potential employer will look at someone's social media as a character reference, and an unknown person sent me an email asking if they could keep screenshots of my post and the comments on file. I agreed. As long as my post is up, neither of them are likely to get a job in their fields, and I'm glad about it. Wow, that's ice cold. Anyone else been in a similar situation? Let me know. Let's go to the comments. I got a DM from someone who wasn't exactly kind to me, not the actual bully, but they associated with them, apologising for her behaviour because now her kid was getting teased at school and is miserable. I forgave her, for my well-being, not theirs, but it stings how they only change their tune when one of their own gets hurt that way. My mum had a therapist who openly admitted to my mum that she was the talk of the table at her nightly dinners, when my mum was having a complete breakdown. Confused, my mum said, "What?" And the therapist laughed and said she felt that my mum was a bit of a case and her family would talk about my mum's stories at dinner. My mum didn't say a word. She walked out, went home, and cried for hours. The next day, she called the head person in charge and told her what she had said to her. That person said that wasn't the first time they heard that. A week later, my mum had a new therapist. When she went in, they pulled her to the side and said that they fired her old therapist. The point of my story is, you just helped a lot of people not have to deal with the same crap my mum went through. I can guarantee you that your bully would probably be the same bee who would laugh at her patients at the dinner table. Having said that, I know people do stupid crap when they're younger, and they grow and learn from their mistakes. But the fact she only apologised when it hurt her speaks volumes. If she really was sorry, she'd have apologised sooner. One thing I've learned in life is that the worst people will only apologise to make the consequences of their actions go away. Their apology isn't for you, it's for them. They want to stop feeling guilt and regret. They want to commit the act and not face the consequences. I wouldn't take it down. Okay, let's go straight to the update. So it's been a little while since I made my last post, and I received so much support. I'd like to thank everyone who was able to show sympathy with me, and even those that challenged me respectfully. I'd first like to clear some things. Yes, part of me wants to put them through the pain I went through, and is enjoying the experience, but it was their chosen paths that made me make the post. Becky should not be responsible for someone else's mental health. I fear it for whoever she is in charge with. Katie too. I've not been able to leave my house because of them, and my pets are my only solace. I would hate for them to be in her hands. I'm not trying to make them jobless forever, just not with these jobs. The other girl is a hairdresser, and I've mentioned her to no one. I don't have them on social media, but a friend of mine shared Katie's post, so I saw it on my feed. That led me down a hole. I am aware that I still have a lot to fix within myself. I'm not a perfect person, and I know the rage I feel needs to be overcome, but I'm not there yet. People tell me to move on and forgive, but I'm not ready to move on, and I don't want to forgive them. Forgiveness is always the victim's burden when the perpetrators deal with no consequences. They may want to forget me, but the scars I have are not going away. Maybe I will forget them someday, but not anytime soon. I would also like to apologise to whoever read my comments. I got quite personal in some, and memories were suddenly fresh in my mind. I was replying from a place of hurt, and I apologise. However, to those saying that Becky could have been genuine in her apology, I'd like to point out that you do not know these girls. I knew them very well for over a decade of our lives, so I know when they are lying. They did so to me and our tutors well enough for me to learn. Now to the update. I reached out to my old school for access to my school files and have been speaking with the new administrators of the school, and after some time, they found my files. I was worrying that they would not be named by name, but they were. Some of them had to be because they could have become police charges if my mother opted. The later instances were less named because it was assumed who did it. I only want these files in case they refute my claims. I also did what many kind comments suggested and saved Becky's messages to me admitting to what she had done. I have been contacted again by a private facility asking to keep evidence, and Becky's father contacted me. I couldn't read his message because of the fear, but I did feel a bit guilty. He said that Becky was panicking and he had looked up the post. He did not know the extent of what happened and apologised to me for not stopping her. I knew he was true because he did not ask me to take it down and accepted it. He was a decent man, and I do not want him shamed by this to our community. I have relayed everything to my therapist, who was very excited but offered caution as I thought he would. Everybody is different, and for once I'm feeling a bit better. He cautions to use this as a tool and not a crutch, but speaking publicly is a breakthrough. I've decided to keep the post up because I do not like the idea of them caring for vulnerable creatures. I have made it public and will keep their names to be shown in a Google search. I will also be sending prints to our local hospitals and shelters. If, in the future, I see that they have genuinely changed and they reach out with a genuine apology, I like to believe I'd be moved to take it down. That all depends on how far I come in therapy and how remorseful they come to be. These people, right now at the least, cannot be trusted around those in the field, and I'm doing my best to help others from living my life. Some will say I'm being selfish, petty, harsh, and As one comment said, a loser. But these people are not me, and have not been through what I have. They will never understand the hurt I have endured, and the fear I have for their charges. Those who are saying they could have changed do not realise the situation. You may think a leopard can change his spots, but he'll always be a leopard. He cannot be trusted around prey. Like these people cannot be trusted around vulnerable people and animals. Thank you all for your support. Alrighty folks, that's the end of that story. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you have done what Opie did, or would you be more inclined to let it go? Obviously it's hard to say without having endured what Opie did, but personally I'd like to think that I wouldn't want the extra stress of that in my life, and I'd be more inclined to maybe forgive and forget, but obviously easier said than done. Let me know what you guys think. Let's go to the next story. Okay, this one was posted on the Am I Wrong subreddit. It was written by user With Love, and it's titled, Am I wrong for not doing a normal baby shower? I, 25 female, am pregnant with twins, identical, and this weekend is my baby shower/sex reveal. Since before I was pregnant, I always said I wanted both things to happen on the same day because I didn't want to be gifted gender-specific things. I didn't want people to give me just blue clothes and trucks and building blocks if I had boys, or give me only pink clothes and things with tiaras and tutus and dolls if I had girls. Doing both things the same day forces people to buy me gender-neutral things and forces them to go through with it. Although if someone brings something gender-related and I end up having the opposite, I have no problem letting my kids play with those toys or put them in those outfits. The theme for the party is teddy bears, so everything is white, beige, brown and black, and we're doing the confetti thing, only that if it's girls, the confetti will be white, and if it's boys, the confetti will be beige to keep with the theme. We mostly care about the pictures. My partner and I aren't really that crazy about it, considering we don't really need anything baby-wise. To us, it's just a party, and an excuse to have all of our family in one place together, considering how rare it is for it to happen. The other thing that's bothering people is that we're calling it a sex reveal, not a gender reveal. And for the fun of it, my partner and I decided to do the balloon reveal thing, but obviously instead of normal balloons, we're having letter balloons that either will say XX or XY. Everyone close to us thought it was the funniest and most creative thing ever, but apparently that's too much to some people. When we started planning this party, we just started throwing random ideas just to start planning something, and some ideas stuck and others didn't. Obviously this didn't go well with some older family members, and they complained and even said they wouldn't go, which I don't care because it's my party, not theirs, you know, but it's definitely causing some tension, and there's a little voice in my head that's saying, just separate the two parties and do the whole pink and blue party. For context, we had a big Skype meeting with everyone to discuss the timing of the party and finishing up last touches, and, well, drama started, lol. What's a family gathering without drama though, right? Oh, and I should add that this party is also to find out which team is winning the bet we have going on. If it's team boys or team girls. The bet is because my family hasn't had a boy in over 14 years, and he's the only one, and my partner's family hasn't had a girl in 23 years, so we want to see who's breaking the family curse, lol. Edit. Just to let everybody know, the party is this Saturday, so on Sunday I'll give an update on who won the bet and how it went through. Since some have made the one of each comment so that both sides win the bet, I just want to clarify that our twins are identical, so one side is going to be able to win, not both. The money that we make from the bet is going to be donated to various organisations that my partner and I support. We're not keeping it for ourselves. My partner and I aren't asking for lots of gifts from our families. We're only asking for what we need, nothing more. We already have everything necessary for the babies, and we also don't want a lot of stuff because early next year we're moving to another country, so I don't need more stuff to pack and carry around. The babies will also be born in October, so close to the holidays, and I'm sure our parents will go crazy with the gifts just because it's their first holidays. Now for some comments. You aren't wrong. Your party, your babies, your rules. I'm personally disappointed in folks feeling so strongly about these things that they'd not attend. That sucks. But hey, they're right to decide whether or not to attend too, I guess. Pink, blue, or no go. Sheesh. Not wrong at all. But I'm struggling with the whole everything being various shades of beige. Why do a gender or sex reveal at all? I'm all for breaking the bullcrap stereotypes and gender as a construct, but this does feel like it's really just trying to be too much. And beige versus white confetti? There's no way people will even be able to tell a difference easily. Ultimately, do whatever makes you happy. Not wrong. Why do people get so upset about things that they have zero stake in? I'm so mad there won't be blue or pink. Like, why? Why do you care? Like, seriously, what are you losing out on or being forced to suffer or getting worked up over? It's colours at someone else's party. You're not paying for it, planning it, doing any work. You're literally just invited, and you're angry at colours? Like, what dog do you have in this fight? It's so bizarre to me that this would even bother someone. That it would even register as an annoyance to someone is baffling to me. It's like being angry over the paint colour of someone else's child's bedroom, or the decoration colours at a wedding reception when you're a +1. I don't understand how people have the time and energy to get so worked up and involved in the minute details of other people's lives. Like, I barely have enough time and energy for the details of my own life, much less getting ticked because it's someone else's neutral-coloured baby shower. Like, so much so that you're threatening not to attend? Wow, that's like full-on crazy town. Now on to the update. Hey guys, here's the update I promised you all. The baby shower was yesterday, and it was perfect. My whole family came, and we all laughed about the situation, and those family members that got annoyed apologised and enjoyed the party and went along with my requests. Did I still get pink and blue stuff? Yes, but it was gender neutral, and contrary to popular belief, my children will not be beige children, only the party was. Now to the part that everyone wants, lol. The confetti that came out was white, the letters XX. So my fiancé broke his family's curse, and his family won the bet. For those that got mad at my choice to reveal the sex of our babies, we're having girls. We're happy and excited. I'm happy that the baby shower was amazing. The decor, the games, those were just hilarious. The food, the party favours, the love in that room was amazing. We had so much fun last night. I'm just happy and full of love. And this baby shower was everything I wanted and so much more. The only hiccups we had was that, 1, I'm pregnant as you know, and on Friday I felt a bit weird and I was having heartburn. I felt tiredness and felt a bit of discomfort in my pelvic area, and that continued on till Saturday. 2, my belly grew and I didn't fit into my original dress, so we had to scramble and get a new dress for me. I feel better now. Still kinda tired, but we're having a barbecue and some games for Father's Day, so we're pushing through and just having a fun day. Thanks for everyone who wanted an update and sent me good vibes and wishes. Now we gotta figure out names, because we have absolutely no idea what their name's going to be. Happy Father's Day as well. Okay, and that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think. Good to hear that everything turned out great in the end. Anyway, let's jump to the last one. Okay, this one was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user DenseBike, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my girlfriend out in the middle of her capstone project for graduate school, jeopardising the future of her degree? I, 21 male, am a twin. We can call my brother Matthew for anonymity's sake. To get ahead of some of the most commonly asked questions, we're identical. We do things in sync sometimes, but I don't know if it's any more common than two people who just spend a lot of time together and adopt each other's mannerisms. I would absolutely say that the twin intuition thing is real. We have 2 older brothers and I love them, but I'm not as close to them as I am with Matthew. We have never been away from each other for longer than maybe 3 days. We don't technically live together, but we stay in the same apartment building for college, and often just fall asleep at each other's places. My girlfriend, 24 female, and I have been long distance for basically our entire relationship. I'm busy with school and the music me and Matthew work on together. She lives about 2 hours away and is busy with her job in a grad program. To make a long, somewhat confusing explanation short, she's staying with me for the summer, working shorter hours remotely while she fulfills an in-person grad school requirement at the university I currently attend. Most of her grad program has been online. This section is not. It's her capstone project, and doing it during the summer means basically she's doing it in double time, so she really has to buckle down and work. I get that. Still, the way she's been treating my brother isn't cool with me. She often rolls her eyes and shuts herself in our guest bedroom when she comes home and sees that he's over. We smoke together and F around on guitars together while we work on music, things she used to be fond of, but now seems to hate. The final straw came last week when I got a phone call while I was out of her freaking out. She had refused to let my brother in the apartment, so he used the key I'd given him, and she lost it. She said her boundaries weren't being respected and that I needed to kick him out. Instead, I told her she needs to leave. She's furious, saying she can't find somewhere else to stay on such a short notice, and I'm effing up the most important class of her life, saying I'm too codependent on my brother, and that I shouldn't have told her she could stay when I knew she needed to work and I wasn't allowing her to do so. Am I the a-hole? Oh man, how hard is it to just give her some space? You two are lounging around, twiddling around on guitars while she's doing the most important project of her life. Yeah, I'd be pretty mad if I was her too. Also, what's the brother doing at Opie's place when he's not even there? What's the point? Let alone forcing himself in when he knows that the girlfriend doesn't want him there. Yeah, it just seems stupid. I'd say Opie's the a-hole here, but that's just me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would I be the a-hole for kicking my son out for making dark humour TikToks about our daughter's death? My daughter, 16 female, died 7 months ago in a car accident. The other driver was speeding and weaving in and out of traffic like a maniac on the highway, ultimately hitting my baby girl. The driver died on impact, but she died 6 hours later in the hospital due to her injuries. My wife and I attended individual therapy as well as marriage counselling. It's been extremely hard for both of us, but we have made considerable progress given the circumstances. We begged our son to get therapy and go to family counselling with us, but he refused. He's 19 and in college, so we can't force him to go. Our therapist gave us a list of warning signs to look out for, and he seemed to be coping well with the loss. We decided to let him grieve in his own way. The issue is, my wife discovered a video my son made that went viral on TikTok. It was reposted by another account. It was a dark humour video, before and after getting my driver's license, which was her school picture and then a picture of her gravestone and totaled car. The 3,000 plus comments were extremely effed up and had similar jokes. We found his account which had more than one video like this. Us then versus now, which had a baby photo of them and then cut to a selfie of him next to her hospital bed before she died. There were in total 5 different posts similar to this, each similarly more disgusting. My wife was inconsolable. She had a severe mental breakdown. I had to take her to the ER so she can be sedated and given fluids due to her vomiting and hyperventilating. I confronted my son, who defended himself, saying he uses these videos to cope with her death. That dark humour is the way he grieves. I could barely look at him. I told him to pack his things and stay with his grandparents. He was angry and said we both need to move the F on and stop taking our grief out on him. It's been 2 weeks, and my wife doesn't want to be anywhere near my son anytime soon. I can't say I disagree. It's been about 10 giant steps back for both of our grieving processes. Our son gone was supposed to be temporary, but my wife and I think it's time for him to move into an off-campus student apartment to give us all some space and establish boundaries. We haven't told him this yet, but plan to when he returns home next week. While he was away, he did apologise in a text to both my wife and I. However, he still insists it wasn't wrong for him to post those videos publicly for millions of people to see. He believes we are being too dramatic and taking it too personally. It took me threatening to disown him before he took down the videos. A few of my friends think we're going too far by essentially abandoning him and kicking him out of our home. They said to keep in mind he's still a stupid kid and he's digging in his heels because he wants attention. We'll be paying for his rent, but he'll have to cover the other costs himself, food and gas, since that's the most we can afford right now. He'll have to get a part-time job while going to class. We still love our son, but neither of us can handle this right now for the sake of our marriage and mental health. Honestly, I think I need to put my wife first here, and if that means he needs to leave, then I'll do that for her. Plus he's 19, turning 20 soon, so it's not like he's a child. Would I be the a-hole? Alright, so there's a bit of a comment thread in this one, so I'm going to get stuck straight into it. Not the a-hole. Using his sister's death for internet clout is disgusting. He took a selfie with his sister on life support. There's a time and place for F's sake. He also gave a text apology then doubled down and called his parents dramatic and refused to take down the videos even though they triggered his mum into an ER visit. He said his parents were taking it too personally. It's about their daughter. It's literally almost the most personal thing you can get. Another commenter adds, "Where in the world does this confidence that clout was the most important thing coming from? Kids his age live their lives on social media in a way that makes me extremely uncomfortable, but it doesn't take much time on TikTok to know that it's a part of life for them now. It's a core part of the way many teenagers experience and interact with the world, and it's not just for clout. This kid is apparently just selfish and lacks empathy and wants to increase his social media following, but there's nothing in the post that indicates he said a single freaking word about likes, followers, or anything that indicated those things were important to him, and that his father ever asked him, 'How is this helping you, son? Why is this important to you to express yourself this way? What about this makes it easier for you to deal with your sister's death?' People up and down this thread are diagnosing him as a psychopath, saying he has a personality disorder, etc. And it's freaking bonkers. We have no idea why he felt this was an important way for him to grieve, and the folks labeling him this and that and the other thing are accusing him of lacking empathy. That's exactly freaking backwards. It may ultimately be that the son's a complete dickhead, that he really doesn't care how these things impact his parents, and he just wants likes and followers. But the information we have here is so far away from proving that, unless you are choosing to project your own hatred of social media culture onto this one person. Ultimately, this sequence of events can also be accurately described as 19-year-old loses his sister, 19-year-old finds comfort in posting dark humour about his sister, parents find them and become extremely upset, dad confronts the kid and after the kid defends himself, asks no follow-up questions about why it's helping him and makes no further effort to understand, but kicks him out of the house, becoming so angry with his son that he can't even look at him. I'd bet every penny I have the son knew exactly what his father felt towards him in that moment, and it sure as heck wasn't love or empathy. Only then, by the way, does the kid lash out, move the F on, at the parents, after his father has reached the point where he is treating him with nothing but anger. The son was not the person who escalated away from a place of familial love here. That's an important detail. Everyone in this thread who is so gleefully tagging this kid with every name or psychological disorder in the book should take a deep frickin' breath and consider who really lacks empathy here. I feel deeply for the father, but the way he's lashing out at his son is ultimately on him, and he is risking losing a second child because of his grief over the first. I won't call him the a-hole. I think all parties involved deserve some grace to figure out such a brutal situation. No a-holes here, but I really hope OP reconsiders his stance towards this and seeks to understand his son a little bit better. I think he'll ultimately regret it if he doesn't. Grace, such an amazing thing. It can move mountains, I agree. Don't cut your son off. He may feel very alone right now. I cannot upvote this enough. As a parent of 20, 24, and 27-year-old men, they are very different than what they were at that age. They live an online life. The pandemic made this even worse. I wouldn't expect a 19-year-old male who was separated from his family in college and going through the complete breakdown of a family to post something psychologically balanced, thoughtful, and reasonable. I've seen worse coping behaviour from grown adults. They just don't post it on TikTok. The mother's behaviour was a complete breakdown and inability to function to the point of hospitalisation, and everyone is pointing fingers at a 19-year-old? I think this entire family is struggling. Expecting a 19-year-old to have the emotional intelligence to cope with not only the loss of his only sibling, but essentially his family, is unreasonable. Most people are looking at this through the lenses of far more adult experience, which is just not fair. The parents' reaction was neither reasoned, mature, or empathetic, and they're more than twice his age. These parents appear to have a lot of unresolved anger, and their son has become a target for their rage. Yes, his post was hurtful, but people do stupid things in grief. His parents are right now. Just because they don't understand it doesn't make it wrong. Everyone needs to take a big step back before this family implodes. Grief and anger mix to make a toxic and blinding combination that often destroys the relationships of those going through it. I hope these parents don't lose a second child in the process. Not the a-hole overall. Opie, but did you say to your son that you're there for him if he needs you? Did you tell him that you're sorry that you and your mother's grief has so overwhelmed you? Did you tell him that you love him? He is still alive, and he's hurting too, so he's not the a-hole either. He's just trying to cope, same as you two. However, you and your wife have each other. He has no one, especially now. Stay in touch, rein in your anger, and have some empathy for him. He is your child, and he lost his sister, and his parents. I'm very sorry for your loss. First of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. My heart goes out to you and your family. I just want to add my 2 cents. I'm a teacher who gets along pretty well with my students, middle school and high school level, so they're always showing me or sending me TikToks or explaining new trends to me. These dark humor style TikToks about a deceased relative are actually more common than you'd think. Your son is not the only person who has made them, and they are genuinely legitimate ways of coping with traumatic loss. I totally understand and empathise with your reaction, but I just want to make the case that people from the younger generation are not always making TikToks like this out of disrespect, and they're not always making light of a serious situation. In this case, it's pretty hard to justify him saying you need to move the F on, but I wonder if that's an example of him suppressing his grief rather than him not feeling any. Again, I'm not defending him, just suggesting another explanation for how his 19-year-old brain, the brain doesn't finish developing until 25 years old, might be dealing with this. As a final thought, our generation and the younger generation view mental health differently. That's just a fact. In the same way that you might see this as an inappropriate and unhealthy way to respond to grief, keep in mind that your way of responding to grief might look just as insane to him. Not the a-hole. If you're paying for university or his housing, you should make it a condition of continued funding to go to therapy. It's not so much the videos that are the problem, and they aren't great, but his reaction to you shows a real lack of maturity and empathy. If he is cognizant of the fact that the videos are some kind of coping mechanism, well, there are more healthy ways to cope, like therapy. Hopefully one day he'll understand and deeply regret his actions. I'm so very, very sorry for your loss. I can't imagine anything worse, and if I lost my daughter, there would be nothing left. I'd be gone. So I wish you great strength. She was a beautiful person. Opie responds, "Thank you for your input. I think requiring him to have some sort of therapy for funding is an excellent idea. I'll definitely speak this over with my wife. Truthfully, my wife and I are barely holding on most days, but therapy has been such huge help through this process. I suspect we'd both be divorced and dead by now if not for our support system. Thank you for your kind words. My daughter was incredibly beautiful and strong. She was a force to be reckoned with. I know if she was here with us right now, she'd be slapping her brother upside the head and using some very colourful language. She was never afraid to speak her mind and was opinionated to a fault. Despite her hard exterior, she was deeply emotional and empathetic. A few months before she died, we discovered a stray cat she was hiding in her bedroom. I had to put on my dad voice and reprimand her, but of course we kept the little dude. He still waits by the front door every day at 3 p.m, waiting for her to get home from school. He ignored everyone but my daughter. He would act like a lap cat, follow her around the house and sleep with her every night. He just recently started letting my wife hold him. He still hisses at me though. Also, even though she was a BC student, she was so smart. She taught herself Python. She begged us to enroll her into a coding camp for her summer break. She wanted to be a game developer and make games like Animal Crossing and a farming game. I forget the name now. She was so smart and loving. I miss her every day. She was sarcastic, witty, and hilarious. A pessimist like me with a heart of gold. She loved people and had tons of friends, and could talk to anyone and everyone for hours. What do you guys think about OP's situation here? I think after reading the first post that OP was definitely justified in his reaction, but then after reading some of those comments I've kind of warmed to both sides now. What do you reckon? It's a bit of a tricky one. Let's go to the update. Firstly, I'd like to send a sincere thank you to everyone who not only commented, but read my original post. This is a very dark and vulnerable time for my family. We are lost, confused, and battling with a grief that has consumed us so entirely, it hurts to physically breathe most days. Secondly, my son is a good man, son and brother. He loved and cherished his sister deeply, and I know in my heart that it was never his intention to make light of her death, nor would he ever intentionally hurt his mother, myself, or anyone. It's been an emotionally exhausting and draining last few hours for both my family and I. However, I'm happy to provide a bittersweet update for all the wonderful people who took the time to read my original post. You all helped me realise I needed to act now and fast if I were to ever repair our family. I called my son on the phone after reading the comments. I asked him why he posted those videos. He said he was just hurting. We were quiet for a while. His voice broke when he asked if me and his mum still loved him. I failed my son. I failed him. What he needed was a father who gave unconditional love, support and protection. He needed his dad. I was too stupid, selfish and angry to see he was hurting more deeply than any of us. We lost our daughter, but he had lost his sister. We needed him to be the strong, mature son for his broken parents, the brave one, the one to shoulder our pain. We took his cry for help as him kicking us while we were down. My wife and I immediately left to go pick him up and bring him home. What I saw was a broken little boy needing his mum and dad, not the pathological monster our grief painted him as. He had visible bags under his eyes and lost a lot of weight. We were too blind to see it. We both profusely apologised and will be showing him how sorry we are for the rest of our lives. We vowed to do right by him. We all cried together on the couch for a while. Our son is taking a year off of school to heal and work on his mental health by his request. He also agreed to attend weekly therapy. He will be home with us. We will also be seeing a family therapist. My wife is seeking medication to get a handle on her panic attacks, and I signed up for a grief support group specifically for fathers. This is all just a start for a very long and difficult journey ahead of us. Thank you everyone for giving me a major kick in the butt and a wake-up call. I may have lost a daughter, but I will not be losing my son. Not now or ever again. Now for a final short update from OP. This community can move mountains and affect the lives of real people facing real issues. I've learned a lot about what grief means for different people. No one's grief is invalid or wrong, and everyone handles it differently. This is a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. This morning I'm making pancakes and bacon, while my son and my wife watch Netflix in the family room. The windows are open. Our daughter's cat actually came out of her room on her own for the first time to lay on the couch with them. Our lazy Saturday. It's the first time in months we did this since our daughter passed. It feels bittersweet, different, but at the same time, it feels right too. Okay, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, a bit of a bittersweet ending, but a pretty good one in the end. It seems like they're doing well to move through this difficult period of their lives. It was great to read a few more comments on that one, and it really helped flesh out, I think, what was going on. But yeah, all in all, very hopeful. Let me know what you guys think about that one in the comments, and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was posted on the True Off My Chest subreddit. It was written by a now deleted account, and it's titled, I just found out my coworker is my cousin, and that my aunt has a secret affair child. I, 21 female, just found out that my coworker, Ruby, 18 female, is actually my cousin, and I'm stunned. The world is small. My aunt got divorced from my uncle some years back, but I don't think anyone knows about this at all. I mean, I have cousins who don't even know yet, and I don't think her husband knew either. When my aunt was in another state for work and married, she had a whole entire relationship on the side, had a baby, and basically left. What I heard from my friend and coworker, and now cousin, is she's seen her sometimes, and was around for a little while when she was a kid, and haven't seen her again since she was 5. The only way I found out was looking at her home screen at a Christmas picture, and I said, "Hey, how do you know that woman in the photo?" That's when she explained. Ruby and her dad actually knew that her mum had another family. My other cousins and her ex-husband don't know about Ruby though. I don't know if I should tell my cousins about this. Oh gee, yeah, how do you bring up something like that? Let's look at the comments. Who cheated first? Maybe he knew and just played dumb. OP replies, I don't really know who cheated first, and I'm not brave enough to ask either of them, but I feel like it was probably my ex-uncle. My aunt used to cry over my mum all the time about it, for as young as I can remember. A hunch of mine thinks she cheated out of spite, but who knows? Their whole entire marriage was so toxic. They are already divorced, right? Was it for cheating? If yes, there's little hurt to her image, but that girl deserves to know at least the half-siblings. Maybe she should simply add them on Facebook and see how it goes. OP replies, the ironic thing is that my uncle cheated on her and got another woman pregnant, so he left my aunt for his mistress. Geez, bit going on here. Alright, let's go to the update. To those of you who have seen my previous post, I did take your advice and I left it up to Ruby about what she wanted to do, and she really did want to meet her sisters. One of my cousins, Ruby's sister, was having a housewarming party this weekend, and I spoke with her beforehand about the situation, which she was doubtful but agreed to me bringing her. This all happened yesterday. When I brought her with me, my 2 cousins, her sisters, automatically saw a resemblance to my aunt and themselves as well. Side by side, one of my cousins and her looked like they could be twins. We were talking about the resemblance, and my cousins were mostly just quiet and confused. Ruby showed them the Christmas photo, and they believed her. My cousin holding the housewarming party, I'll call Lima, cried. I talked with her and asked if it was because she was upset with her mum, but she said it was because she wished she knew she had another sister, and she's just very sentimental when it comes to family. My cousins Lima and Lena were very close to Ruby for the rest of the evening, and all of our family at her house had some questions. It looks like there wasn't too much drama, until today. My aunt called my phone over 30 times when I was sleeping after the house party. I haven't called her back, but it sounds like all hell broke loose. When I called my cousin Lima, she told her dad, aka ex-uncle, and it turns out he did not know about Ruby and called to curse my aunt out. I am right now anxious to talk to my aunt right now. I'm just glad that Lima and Lena got to meet Ruby. Yeah, I think OP did the right thing there ultimately, but yeah, she can pretty much say goodbye to that relationship with her auntie now. What do you folks think about this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Am I the a-hole for wanting more help with my child after my surgery? I, 24 female, had a baby about 8 weeks ago. It was a difficult pregnancy and I had to be induced at 37 weeks due to a medical complication. I had to get stitches and the recovery was really rough. 4 days ago, I was feeling really awful, so I asked my husband, 26 male, to take me to the hospital. Turns out I had gallstones and needed to get my gallbladder removed, which happened 2 days ago. Yesterday, I was discharged from the hospital, and while the doctor did say I should walk around, I don't think I should be 100% back to doing everything I was before the surgery. I asked my husband for just a little extra help with our child. I said I don't mind holding her in my lap for feedings, but diaper changes and anything involving carrying the baby from room to room, I'm uncomfortable with. At least the first day or two being back home. He got upset because the doctor said I should be fine. We got into a big argument after I explained that this is my second major medical procedure in the last 2 months, and I didn't say I wasn't doing anything, I just needed a little extra help. This morning, my mother-in-law, who I usually get along great with, stopped me on my way to the bathroom to tell me I shouldn't be asking for extra help, that I have a child now, and it doesn't matter what healing I'm doing, because the baby comes first. Again, I said I wasn't asking for anyone to take over for the baby completely. I was just uncomfortable carrying the baby from room to room, since she is pretty big now and kicks right where the incisions are. I thought it was reasonable, since I literally just came home from the hospital the evening before. I thought my points were valid, but now that 2 people in my family have said the same thing, I'm not sure if I'm the a-hole or not. I'm just in a lot of pain and I need a little more rest than usual. Not to mention my painkillers have been putting me to sleep for hours. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Trying to add this answer in my update, but it isn't posting for whatever reason, so I'll leave it here. Both my husband and mother-in-law previously had been super helpful with the baby. My husband has never seen helping out as babysitting, or only my job, and my mother-in-law has also helped a lot by watching my child so I can take naps and run errands. I'm not sure why they blew up when I asked for just a bit of extra help. Wanted to clarify they'd been very helpful up until this point. As far as the living situation is, we are temporarily staying with my mother-in-law. She had broken her back and our lease for our apartment was up, so we decided to move in to help her heal and also use that time to save money for a down payment on a house. Unfortunately, this was right before the housing in our area blew up in prices, so it's been hard to find anything. What was only supposed to last about 6 to 12 months will be 2 years in November. A big part of both of their arguments was that my mother-in-law had her gallbladder removed a few years ago, and she went right back to normal as soon as she left the hospital, since she's the main caretaker for her mother. She's also broken her back twice while taking care of her parents, and still went right back to it as soon as she left the hospital. Then she compared me recovering to a story of her killing a tarantula outside before her kids came home from school. Yes, it could bite her and maybe even kill her, but her kids are worth it, and that's how I needed to see recovering from surgery as. Wow, that's a very interesting analogy to use in that situation. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. The unwillingness from both your husband and mother-in-law to recognize you need to recover from a surgery you had 2 days ago is staggering. Your mother-in-law seems to subscribe to that old-fashioned thinking that parenting is a woman's job, men just help babysit. She disregarded your discomfort and indirectly suggested you're a bad parent for needing to heal from a literal organ removal. The thing is, your mother-in-law stopping you on your way to the bathroom in the morning at your own home clearly shows your husband ran to her and told her you were being unreasonable. Then she chose to scold you instead of helping. This requires a long talk regarding boundaries. Is there anyone from your side of the family willing to give you a hand for a couple of days? Or will your husband and mother-in-law finally decide to help you after you pop a stitch or two? Not the a-hole. He's the father, not the hired help. He is expected to help. He and his mother need to get off their childcare as the mother's responsibility horse. Not the a-hole. These people are a pack of wolves. Do you have any family or friends you could stay with while you heal? If not, call your OBGYN. Explain the gallbladder emergency and ask if they've given you a letter to share with your family. The gallbladder doctor was just giving you the generic instructions and not modify them for the fact that you're postpartum and caring for a newborn. But really, these people are horrifyingly awful and I doubt they can be reasoned with. Yeah, I find myself agreeing wholeheartedly with these comments. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Let's go to the update. First off, I wanted to thank everyone for their input. I was feeling kind of bad for being upset over this, but this made me feel like my feelings were justified. I do want to clear a couple things up. First off, I totally get why some people thought in this instance my husband was seeing helping with his child as babysitting. Usually he's all for putting in 50-50 with our child. He stays up late, fixes bottles, changes diapers, etc. He's usually a very doting and loving father, which is why his comment threw me off so much. And my mother-in-law has also helped a lot by watching my child, so I can take naps or run errands, again which is why I was so thrown off by her comment. A lot of people asked about our living situation. We are temporarily staying with my mother-in-law while saving for a down payment on a home. She stays at home and has offered to take care of the baby when I go back to work. There wasn't really anywhere else I could stay as others suggested either. My family has also been treating the surgery as no big deal and expected that I would have no problem with the baby. And even when they offered to come help for the day, they all backed out last minute, so I was feeling very on my own. As far as the aftermath, my husband and mother-in-law both apologised for what they said. Everyone was exhausted from the 4 days I was in the hospital. My husband wasn't sleeping while at the hospital, and my baby was apparently very fussy since it was the longest time she was away from me since giving birth to her, so mother-in-law had no sleep either, and everyone was just frustrated with the entire situation. I guess they both just said the first thing that came into their heads, with no sleep, after I asked for help. I was honestly relieved because neither of them have ever acted like that before, and it was completely out of nowhere. Everything has been good now. I'm still healing, but my husband and mother-in-law have been a huge help with the baby. I go back to work in about 2 weeks, and I'm trying to get as much rest as possible beforehand. Let's have a look at one last comment. I'm glad to hear you're being more supported now. Regardless of the explanation for their earlier response to your request for help, did they acknowledge that their expectations were completely unrealistic and, in fact, cruel to expect of anyone? Because saying things in the heat of a tired and overwrought moment is one thing, but the basis of what is said, their belief that a mother's love for her child should be able to transcend physical inability and that your feelings and needs don't matter, is really alarming. If they truly carry those beliefs and just usually hide it better, then it could mean bad things for the future. Taking it to the extreme, if you were diabetic and having a hypoglycemic event, would they tell you to suck it up and delay treating yourself if the baby was crying? Would they tell you that severe depression should be ignored until it was convenient for them to support you in getting treatment because the baby needed something? Opie then replies, "My husband acknowledged that he was in the wrong and did not realise how much actual pain I was in. My mother-in-law didn't, but we are both a bit awkward with big emotions towards each other, so I know she genuinely meant it." Alrighty folks, that's the end of that story. Let me know what you think in the comments. Honestly, all in all, a pretty good ending there, I think. Yeah, I can imagine having a baby would be a highly stressful event for everyone involved. So it's probably important not to get too caught up on things like this. But yeah, what they said was wrong, but it's good to hear that they've apologised and it seems like everyone's moving on here. Either way, let me know what you guys think and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was posted on the True Off My Chest subreddit. It was written by a throwaway account and it's titled, "I got disowned and shunned from my family and community for sending my son to jail." I'm from Indian and Bengali background. We live abroad. I have a son who got married a year ago. That day when I called the police, I saw his wife had bruises, a black eye, and a busted lip. It doesn't take a genius to know what happened to her. I asked her, and my son, whose head was low in guilt. I asked him, "Son, did you do this?" He replied he did. He beat her because she served him cold coffee when he wanted it hot. My daughter-in-law told me she did bring him hot coffee, but it got cold while he was talking on the phone. My son said sorry and to never do it again. It wasn't enough. I called the cops on him. He got angry and attacked one of the officers. He's in jail. This news got spread in my community like wildfire, and people have been calling me a bad mum. Some told me I'm ruining my son's future for something so small. My son will suffer in the future because of these allegations. Some told me this is his private matter. Even as a mother-in-law, I shouldn't have interfered. Some told me I should support my son regardless of what he did. After all, sons are the star in the mother's eyes. I got a lot of backlash for supporting my daughter-in-law. I've been called names by everyone. They think I'm making a big issue out of a small argument. Indian people see domestic violence as taboo, so they do not want to talk about it in the open. My husband told me what I did was wrong. People will shun our family. That's what's happened. None of my friends talk to me. Even family members kicked me out of the group chat. My family members think I should have just given him a warning instead of calling the police. They all think my daughter-in-law must have done something bad for my son to react this way. My own parents think a warning to my son would have been enough, but that is not true. My daughter-in-law said he has been beating her since after 3 months into their marriage. Do I feel guilt for doing it? No, I do not. I do feel sorry I didn't catch this earlier. I do feel like I failed as a mother because if I did a good job, my son would respect women. I just wanted to share this, because no one from my family or community will ever talk to me if my son goes to prison. Nobody is with me, except for my daughter. I know this will be a gossip for a long time, and people will not come forward to help me or my daughter-in-law. I will forever be the back ship. Oh geez, that would have been a hard thing to do, but honestly, yeah, definitely the right thing to do. People like the son don't really learn from warnings, I find. If he's done it before, he'll probably do it again. Let's look at the comments. You did the right thing. You knew all the implications it might have had for your community and their cultural leanings, and you still did the right thing. Even though you know it was the right thing, I'm sure it's been very hard, but you did not beat the woman. Your son did. You did not hit an officer. Your son did. He should face repercussions for his actions, or he'll never realize that in real life. No one cares about your nuanced cultural mores when you've committed a crime. Lest he never learn that no one should or will protect or shield him from being an abusive tyrant and violating another human. He sounds like he has no control over himself and takes it out by controlling his wife violently. I pray she divorces him. Consider yourself blessed to stand on a moral high ground others in your community couldn't hold themselves to. Your son is a shameful woman beater. He deserves to be in jail. To anyone who blames you, the blame and the shame are squarely upon him. He chose to beat his wife. He chose to attack an officer. The shame is all upon him, and upon those people who blame you for reporting him. As a fellow woman, I am proud of you. If only more Indians were like you, we would have a country much better for women. You absolutely did the right thing. It's so refreshing to hear a story where a mother doesn't defend her abusive son. Super proud of you for doing the right thing even though nobody is supporting you, which is expected of course. Domestic abuse is so normalized in India. Your family is also a piece of crap for disowning you. These are the kind of people that perpetuate abuse and ask the woman to stay in abusive situations. A warning to my son would have been enough? Lamau, the audacity of such people. You did the right thing. Okay, now straight to the update. Hello everyone. Thanks for all the awards. A lot of you are asking me for an update. I'm not sure this is update worthy, but things for me just keep getting worse. I'm still being blamed. My son was bailed out and won't speak to me. He said I broke his trust, that I should be by his side and not support my daughter-in-law. I broke his trust. My family members are avoiding me. My daughter-in-law is safe. I talked to her. She said she'll go through with the divorce. She has no contact with her parents. Her parents did call me to curse me out that I ruined her daughter's life by filling her head with angry feminist views. It has been hard. My husband and I have not been on good terms. We had a fight, and between the fight he blurted out that he had an affair. This came up because my son was having an affair too. My daughter-in-law did not like it. This was the main topic, and he blurted out he also had an affair and knew about his. He went on with it because my son and some family members knew. I don't want to go into details. My husband said it was 7 years ago, so it shouldn't matter because he has been faithful to me. I don't buy it. I've shifted on the guest room. I don't know if I'll pursue divorce or not. I'm tired. I try to do the good thing, yet somehow I become the bad person and get the worse end of the stick. My marriage is over. My family hates me. Only my daughter supports me. She cursed out her father when I disclosed the affair. She is not talking to him. She offered me to move in with her. I'm not sure yet. Deep down, I'm still hurting. I never wanted any of this to happen. I know if I get a divorce, my husband will marry someone else easily. I'm not worried about that. I feel like a fool. I failed as a wife and a mother. Thank you so much for the support. Every time I have doubt, I open Reddit and read your comments that provide me with such comfort. Whew, okay, so that's all we've got with that one. Let me know what you think in the comments. Honestly, it just seems like there's no consequences for any of the men in this woman's life. And the husband trying to justify the affair by saying he had one himself and that it's all fine? Like, that's just ridiculous. Let's just hope Opie can get out and get to a better place. Okay, let's go to our next story. Alrighty, so this next one was posted on the Malicious Compliance subreddit. It was written by user FrostDragon57, and it's titled, I'm not authorized to go get water? Alright. Now before I start, here's a bit of context for this situation. I work in the boat industry as an engine tech and parts painter. I know, quite a broad range right there. Anyway, the company I work for is quite old, and the building I work in is even older. The heating system is trash, and we really lack anything in the way of air conditioning, and it's boiling outside right now. Earlier today, I'd started overheating really quickly as the temperature rose in the building. I have a medical condition where my body can't regulate temperature well, meaning I'm at risk of passing out. I was going to go get a bottle of water from the fridge to help me cool down, when I was stopped by one of the company managers. Let's call him Kyle for this story. Kyle: where are you going? Me: I was only going to get some water. Kyle: you're supposed to be working right now. You can get the water during the coffee break. Me: I don't think you understand that I can actually be in danger from this heat right now, so could I please go get one of the bottles of water? Kyle: no, you're not authorized to leave your work before the clock strikes. Now shut up and get back to work. Me: roger that. Keep in mind that this conversation was held in front of my co-workers. Cue malicious compliance. I got back to work, making sure to put on some extra coal, just to make sure I make up for lost time. Basically, I was forcing my body into shock and heat stroke was just around the corner. Fast forward around 30 minutes. I had to tell my co-workers through my strained breath that I don't feel too good, which was actually even worse now, as I was working on deck on one of these boats, give or take 3 meters above the floor. When I made my way towards the ladder to climb down, I only got out a very strained, "Oh crap," as I fell off the back and was headed straight for the concrete floor below me. Lucky for me, some co-workers reacted fast enough and managed to catch me before my head was split open on the floor. I woke up in an ambulance around an hour later. The EMTs were checking my vitals and were actually helping me. My boss came up to the door and asked me what had happened. I told him exactly as I told you guys, and I also told him to check with my co-workers if he didn't believe me. Long story boring, I was brought to the hospital for a checkup just to make sure I actually didn't suffer any kind of trauma from the fall. A buddy of mine came with me to make sure I got there and back safe. A few hours passed, and my buddy got a call. He picked it up, and it was Kyle. My buddy handed me the phone, and I heard Kyle on the other end apologizing for actually almost getting me killed. The short version is that he was heavily reprimanded for what he told me, and was put on watch. He didn't lose his position though, so I guess I didn't fully win, but he was liable for the medical compensation for my situation. I did forgive him, and just to rub it in a bit, I just had to ask him, am I authorized to get water next time? And my buddy just laughed. Edit. I already got OSHA on the line and they're launching an investigation into this. So, if nothing else, I just made Kyle's week even more horrible. Also, for those who wondered, Kyle is pretty new and is basically a bit of a brick. Can I call him that? Whatever. He's rough around the edges and generally doesn't believe people when it comes to their personal health. He's got that kind of, if you can talk, then you can work mentality. So in a way, he kind of deserved this. OSHA will have a field day with his actions. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know about other countries, but I know in Australia it's actually illegal to say that someone can't drink water. I'm sure it is in most other countries as well, because that's just insane, particularly if they have a condition. But yeah, in Australia, you legally can't deny someone a water break. I could have a water break every 5 minutes if I wanted, and legally that'd be okay. Although, yeah, you probably wouldn't last long in your job if you did that. Good to hear the manager's getting some repercussions, but it's just sad that Opie had to put himself in that position of danger. He could have hurt himself pretty seriously there. Anyway, let's go to the update. First of all, hello again. I'm the idiot that almost died to prove a point. Before I continue, to all of you who are concerned about my safety and health, thank you. I never realised how many would care. I'd also like to apologise for literally putting my own life in danger to prove a point. It was stupid. My family, the nurses, my girlfriend, and many of you made me realise just how stupid I was, and I'll be more careful in the future. I'm now out of the hospital after being completely stabilised, and I don't have any major trauma from this ordeal, so don't worry. Anyway, for those of you not in the loop, check my profile for the previous post. For those of you who already know, let's get into this. A lot of things happened so far. My aunt, the main nurse assigned to me, and the nurses I knew, personally all cussed me out for what I did, and told me to make sure I better get health and safety to invade my job for this. My aunt put me in contact with a representative, and I had a lengthy chat with said representative. This got the ball rolling for investigations to start. What I didn't expect was that even police had to get involved. I was released from the hospital after a day and was told that I could work, but I was entitled to 10-minute breaks every hour if the temperature rose above 25 degrees Celsius indoors, which basically is every hour of the day. Anyway, I clocked in today and was immediately approached by some man and woman in high-vis and hard hats. The woman introduced herself as the representative I'd spoken to on the phone, and she basically asked me to backtrack and explain in detail what happened. I did, and she wrote everything down and let me be on my way. After reminding me to abuse my medical papers as much as I felt like. Don't know why. She just said that and walked away. Didn't hear much more after that. The entire company was called into a large meeting about personal safety, and it was quickly established that I was the cause of said safety meeting. Whoops. Anyway, we were informed that Kyle, the dillweed manager, had been demoted to a normal worker, and that we would be entitled to 5-minute breaks every hour due to the heat. Nice. He also said that, due to the heat, the company would be purchasing drink coolers, fans, and would be compensating any worker that had to go home due to illness prompted by the heat. This part though shocked me. OP is not allowed in any engine bay until winter due to temperatures in there being close to a sauna. We don't need him to almost die twice to understand his condition is severe. Basically anywhere the heat rises above 30 degrees Celsius, I'm not allowed in for my own safety. That's as far as this situation has come. Once again, to those who are worried about me, thank you, and I'm sorry for making you worry about someone like me. Thank you for your time. Wow, sounds like Opie got a pretty sweet deal in the end there. But yeah, a bit crass to go to that length to prove your point, but, all in all, pretty good outcome for OP there. Let me know what you guys think about this one.
Am I the a-hole for defending my husband after my ex-husband abandoned our children? I, 38 female, have a 9-year-old son Max and 6-year-old daughter Olivia with my ex-husband Dan, 35 male. Max has severe autism and requires a lot of care. I remarried 3 years ago and my husband, Luke, is incredible. My ex has them 6 hours every week. This week was on Tuesday, and as I was away for a funeral, Dan took the day off work to be with them in the morning and evening. Ex and his girlfriend, Sophie, picked them up as planned at 11 AM. My husband took this time to play a round of golf with my brother. They finished the game at 4 PM and the golf is 30 minutes from our house. I got a call at 5 PM exactly from Sophie screaming at me about abandoning my kids. I was confused and eventually realised Luke wasn't home yet, so I told her where the spare key is so they could wait for Luke to come home inside. Unfortunately, Luke's car had gone kaboom on the motorway and he was in a complete coverage dead zone. He was able to call emergency services, but nothing else would connect. When the police arrived, the first thing he did was ask if someone could contact Dan to tell him what had happened. Sophie was already on the phone to the police to report me and my husband for child abandonment. They said one of us should have been there, and my ex doesn't feel safe inside our home, ? So they've left the kids inside our home, and that the police needed to go and save our kids and arrest us. The police person speaking to them told them multiple times to turn around, and that they were the ones who had abandoned them. This whole time I'm getting messages from Dan saying how this was unfair on him and Sophie, and that I'm a terrible parent for leaving them with someone who doesn't give a crap about our kids. At this point, I didn't actually know what was going on. All I knew is that Luke wasn't home, but Dan had found the spare key. At no point did he tell me that they've left the kids alone. Luke got hold of me via the police, and I arranged for a friend to go around there as soon as they could, but the police already had a unit there after the call with Sophie. After this, I've decided to try and get his 6 hours a week taken away. I've given him so much leeway over the years, and this was my limit. Our son is dependent on an adult, and our daughter is 6, and the only thing he would say to defend himself is, "Well, I kept up my side of the agreement by bringing them back after 6 hours. This has caused a whole other crapstorm, to the point where Sophie sent me messages that the police are now investigating. Dan hinted he's going to try and get the kids taken into care because of my husband, quote, abandoning them. I had multiple people ask me why I'm staying with someone who abandoned my children. His parents have threatened to try and gain custody of the children, saying the children need a stable family unit, and calling my husband abusive. I said F this and put the whole story with evidence on my private Facebook page, and people quickly understood. But now I'm being branded a drama queen and a jerk for publicly blasting the father of my children, putting my husband above my kids. I don't understand how. He's more of a father to them than Dan is. I feel like I've taken crazy pills. Am I the a-hole? Yeah, sounds like the ex and the girlfriend have got a clear vendetta against OP here. Let's look at the comments. Someone asks, "Did you mean the police investigating you or Sophie?" OP replies, "I worded it badly in the post. Sophie sent me messages and the police are now investigating those messages. Said some horrendous stuff about my kids and even worse stuff about me. Hopefully enough for me to prevent her from ever being near their kids again." More info on police involvement. I won't speak too much on the police involvement, but I will say they won't be investigating them being left alone. That's being handled by a more appropriate service. I made the report about the text she sent, and they're treating it as an ongoing pattern of behaviour rather than a one-time event. I'm not entirely sure what they meant by that, but I think they'll consider other stuff that has happened and lump it all together. I'm speaking to an officer on Monday. In response to someone saying you shouldn't eliminate their father from their life, I don't think removing your kids from him 100% is good for your kids. OP replies, "We're going to have to politely disagree here. He left them alone in a house and refused to go back even after the police told him he had to, because they weren't his responsibility beyond that time. If that's not evidence that they're safer without him, I don't know what is. He chose this path, not me." Someone says, "They don't get to choose who their father is." OP replies, "You're almost correct. They don't get to choose who their biological father is." One heavily downvoted comment says, "I'd urge you to hold off on your decision until some time has passed. You want your decision to be well thought and not reactionary after all." OP says, "It's been 3 days. Assigning my very rightful anger about my severely autistic child and his 6-year-old sister being abandoned to being upset is demeaning and dismissive. How many times is an appropriate number of genuine child endangerment before taking action is appropriate in your world? This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't something he regrets. He still thinks he did nothing wrong. Also, the fact you're just assuming I'm making a reactionary decision and jumping to no contact on something as serious as the contact my children have with their father, patronising as F. As for any other behaviour in the past, he has 6 hours a week for a reason. I won't be going into our history as it's not required here." Someone says, "I can't believe they called the police to tattle on themselves." OP replies, "I don't believe this part of the story. It's why it's not in the post, but Luke swears it's true. I think he's exaggerating it slightly. After he asked the police officer to get someone to contact Dan, they came back and told him about the call from Sophie, based on the address given, and how someone at HQ was trying to tell them to go back to the kids, and said, 'I've dealt with some real bright sparks in my time, but that's a unique kind of dumb.'" Someone asks, "Did your ex mean he was going to try and take the kids, or that they'd go to foster care?" OP replies, "He recently moved into Sophie's place, and I remember hearing something about a cold day in hell before she lets them sleep there overnight. For all his many faults, he's self-aware enough to know he can't look after them. He meant taken into foster care. His parents meant into their care." Block Sophie. She's muted. Police said I could block her, but they're looking into her actions being harassment, so ongoing messages is very helpful to that. What did Sophie say in the messages? Well, about me, she said I was a crap parent, accused me of neglect, said my car might have an accident, threatened to fight me, accused me of cheating on my ex with Luke, despite him living on a different continent at the time, just unhinged crap. I've had stuff from her in the past, but never to this level. I won't go into what she said about my kids. Okay, enough context and clarification there, I think. On to the update. This happened a week ago. Post was made a few days after it happened. The post I made on social media has kicked up quite the fuss, but most things have been sorted, for now, and my post is still up telling people what happened. My brother, Pete, was friends with my ex-husband before we ever got together. He also never really got involved in our relationship, or separation. He's never really been involved in my life beyond being a good uncle. He's a nice guy, but we've never been that close. He's always been closer to my ex, and now with my husband. When he found out what happened, that completely changed, and he put himself right in the middle of it all. My brother was always the beta in his friendship with Dan. I always suspected he was scared of him. Well, not anymore. He called Dan and ordered him to meet him at Dan's parents, who he knows quite well. Dan was advised that bringing Sophie to this meeting wouldn't end well for him. I don't know exactly what was said, but the result of their conversation is that Dan's parents are going no contact with him. I don't like them, they never liked me, but I've never doubted they loved my kids and would protect them with their lives. Pete did tell me that Dan made it clear he wouldn't break up with Sophie under any circumstances, even if it meant he wouldn't be able to see his kids. Pete explained what happened to my ex's in-laws, that the version of events I posted was true, and went through the timeline and proof. Dan argued and beed and moaned until his dad told him to leave. I think the fact that my brother, who was known for caring about beer, women and sports and nothing else, took this so seriously, got the grandparents to wake up. I spoke to them, and although their apology was barely worth hearing, we came to an understanding. I'm not going to allow any visits or contact between Dan and Sophie and my children going forward. Our agreement was informal, no court orders or anything. If he wants to see them, he'll have to fight for it, which I know he won't. Those 6 hours a week are now going to be with his parents, on the condition that if they allow Dan to be around the kids, even once, they will be cut off from our lives. They were fine with this. Today came, and they picked the kids up and spent the day with them. They called me after 5 hours and asked if they could bring them back an hour later than planned. They were having a lot of fun painting, and the kids wanted to finish what they were doing. No problem, thanks for checking. I cannot stress enough how much I dislike them, but knowing my kids are with people who want to be with them is such a good feeling. Dan didn't even text me asking if he was going to have his scheduled time today. I spoke to a police officer yesterday about the messages sent to me by Sophie. I'm going to gloss over some details, for reasons, but they are moving forward with an investigation. There's a continued pattern of behaviour and it has been escalating. She's made some very specific threats and over the weekend sent me a message that contained information she would only know if she had followed me to where I was at the time. Luke has set up external cameras on our house, including making sure our cars are covered by cameras at all times. Our neighbours know what happened last week, so they're going to keep a lookout for her as well. I feel awful that I let this person be around my kids for almost a year. I let her be around them, but I didn't know her well enough to spot she was capable of behaviour like this. I spoke to Olivia to ask what she thought of Sophie, and she said she was grumpy and not fun, but nothing to indicate she hurt them or anything. This reaction to the whole situation is just unhinged. Luke has been a star through this. He's resisted the very strong urge to find Dan and beat him with a golf club. He's not worth replacing a driver, and made sure the kids know he loves spending time with them. Olivia calls him daddy anyway, but she knew she was abandoned last week, and he's shown her that he's here for her. He's always loved Max and been amazing with him, but I know he's found it difficult to connect. He asked for advice and I told him to just try things he enjoys and see if Max engages. Well, Max spent 5 hours on Sunday with a golf putter in his hand, hitting a ball to the putting machine thing Luke has in the garage, and apparently he's a natural. Luke now has it outside, as Max became automatic in the garage and needed a bigger green. So I'm now re-evaluating my life. Living with one golf obsessive was barely manageable, 2 may be more than I can endure. I'm currently typing this looking at Olivia's painting of a birthday cake. Deranged threats aside, I'm happy with how things are right now. More on the investigation. The police are actively investigating and taking steps regarding Sophie. They have more than enough information to move forward. Just a matter of going through the processes now. I don't know how the system works, but I believe there will be an arrest soon. And no, they aren't charging with child abandonment, but that issue is being looked at along with the bullcrap with Sophie. I don't know what the plan is from the police beyond they have all the information. They're just focusing on the immediacy of her threats rather than what happened last week. Well, it's good to hear that things are in motion and things seem to be resolving themselves over time. But yeah, the constant threats from Sophie would be concerning. Okay, on to the last update. Since my previous posts, everything has mostly been resolved. I didn't go into detail at the time, but a lot of what Sophie was sending me was accusing me of sexual infidelity, and had told a lot of people that I was someone who effed other women's men. I thought she was accusing me of cheating on my ex with my now husband, but we'll come back to this in a bit. She directed people to message me from public posts on her Facebook. One person turned up at my door to shout abuse at me. Between this and other stuff she did, I reported her to the police and they opened a case of harassment. I spoke to a lovely officer who took all the evidence I had, and a week later she was arrested and interviewed. Her phone and computer were seized, and she was released with bail conditions to not contact me directly or indirectly. I was told there was enough evidence to support a prosecution, but at that stage I just wanted to move on and be done with it. Dragging it through court for God knows how long seemed such a daunting and horrible future, so the police didn't move forward with prosecution and filed it with no further action, meaning the bail conditions would no longer apply the moment it was filed. I was told this would happen after a review from somebody that wasn't the officer dealing with it, which would be between 1 to 7 days, and I'd be told when that was completed. I'm not 100% sure on the specifics or legalities of this paragraph, it's just how it was explained to me. I wasn't involved in any of it directly. This was communicated to her, and being the bright spark she is, she immediately messaged my brother something along the lines of his sister being a tramp and a waste of police time. The bail conditions were still in place. He reported this to the police, not knowing I wasn't going forward with the whole case. Turns out that where I live, breach of bail conditions is a crime against the government, not the person they were in place to protect. I have no knowledge of what's going on with that, but I am led to believe she's in a bit of legal trouble. After she was interviewed, I was informed of what was said about all of this to the police, bringing everything full circle to the original incident that led to all of this. Turns out, Sophie and my ex were in a relationship for almost 2 years while we were still married, with it ending around the time my 6-year-old daughter was born, and then reconnected in the last year or so. I had no clue this happened. I'm actually weirdly impressed he hid it so well. Sophie was under the impression we split up a year into their relationship and didn't know we had a son while they were together. When they reconnected, he told her we had 2 kids, which she wasn't happy about but forgave him. Thing is, my ex told her that my daughter is 8. She is 6. He was covering up lying to her all those years ago about separating from me. I guess this was easier than telling her that not only were we together for the 2nd year of their relationship, but we had a child in that time. I don't know what his long-term plan for this lie was. The day it all exploded, Olivia had corrected her about her age, and she realised that I'd been having sex with her man while they were together all those years ago. My then husband, she thinks the moment he told her we had split up, she went from being the other woman to the legitimate partner. I'll go to my grave not understanding that logic. Anyway, she hit the roof and refused to be around his love child anymore, which led to the whole issue at my house in the first post. Luckily, she didn't say any of this in front of Olivia. Dan is still with her. They can have each other. He's made it clear he has no interest in seeing either his legitimate child or his quote love child, which is fine. His parents have been incredible this entire time, helping with childcare to the point I've been able to pick up more hours at work. We've gotten along much better since they've accepted that maybe all the bad things they heard about me weren't true. Still some bad blood there, but it's a much improved relationship, which is great for the kids because they love spending time with them both. The absolute worst part of all of this is that Max, Luke, my brother Pete, my ex-father-in-law, and Pete's brother-in-law are now in a weird golfing crew. Max still only putts when they reach the hole, but he enjoys watching the others play the full game. Golf isn't played in the winter, is it? This ends soon, right? I'm going to hear conversations about anything else by the end of November, surely. Haha, I must admit, golf isn't the easiest sport to get around, so I can understand her concern. But yeah, all in all, great ending there. And yeah, how crazy is that the husband was living a double life for so many years? Truth comes out eventually though. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below. A bit of an epic, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Alright, on to our next story. Okay, this one's from Relationship Advice. It was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, My daughter's friend stole a $4,900 watch from my husband, and we don't know how to tell her parents. Our daughter, 18 female, has been friends with this girl, 18, for about 8 or 9 months, and in the last few months she has started inviting her to our house more often because they're classmates and sometimes they have to do projects together. Well, last week she came to our house, and my husband, 56, was helping them with a project, since they are studying the same thing he studied. And at one point my youngest daughter came home with her friends, so my eldest daughter and her friend went to my husband's office, and according to him, he had taken off his watch and left it on his desk, and our daughter saw it, so he was right. So when her friend left, the watch was gone, and after searching for it throughout the house, I, 36, decided to check the security cameras, and she took it when she was left alone in the office for less than 5 seconds. To my surprise, my daughter wasn't surprised, because according to her, this is the 3rd time that valuable things have disappeared from our house. The first 2 times, she stole a pair of gold earrings and a gold necklace from my daughter, and she thought she lost them because honestly she loses her things all the time. But my daughter is sure that her necklace and earrings were in her jewelry box and that her friend took them. And now my husband and I don't know if we should tell her parents, since she has stolen a significant sum of money from our house, and the last thing we want is to get the police involved. We just want to get our stuff back and help her get help because she clearly has a problem. How can you talk to parents about this without them feeling offended? In total, she stole almost $6,000 from our house, and that's not right. But she's young and we want to give her another chance. That's why we're not going to involve the police, and that's why we also want to talk to her parents. Would that be the correct way to face this situation? Edit, just to clarify, they are in college, and the decision not to involve the police has to do with that. We don't want to affect her academically, and I say that we want to talk to her parents because she still lives with them, and they're the ones who pay everything for her. Yeah, I think Opie's got the right idea. It's just, how do you say that to a parent? Yeah, let's look at the comments. If you have actual video proof of the watch being taken, that should diffuse any awkwardness of the conversation. They won't really have a leg to stand on in terms of just being defensively, "You were just accusing my kid for something you lost." Being pointed about the fact that you're coming to them first, especially because she's 18, a permanent record will be hit. So get them to accommodate getting your things back. If they are a family of scumbags and don't care, then police will be the only path you can take. As far as how they punish or parent to set the kids straight, you really won't and can't have any hope or influence over that, so remove that. This has to be about getting your stuff back. Maybe you will learn from how the parents react, how they plan to address, but that's as far as you can hope. Show her parents the video first and give them the chance to do the right thing. If they refuse, go to the cops. Their daughter is a thief. Does it really matter if they get offended? Seriously? This is why she keeps doing it, because no one is making her take accountability. Come on now. Yeah, hard to argue there. Let's go to the update. My husband and I decided to talk to her parents because she lives with them, and we thought telling them was the best thing. Well, according to them, they suspected that she was doing something wrong because she was receiving more and more gifts from my daughter every day, because that's what she said they were. We told them that our daughter only gave her a bracelet that was a birthday gift, but the rest of the things were never gifted, and fortunately they weren't offended and even promised to check her room to see if they could find out things. When they checked her room and her electronics, they found even more things than we thought. She has been stealing things from our house for months to sell them online on a second-hand clothing sales app. At home we live with 4 teenagers, 18, 16, 14 and 12, who are constantly exchanging clothes, shoes and jewellery, and often have arguments because one of them takes something from the other without permission. So when she stole several of my daughter's clothes, they never suspected it was her. She sold all the clothes she stole from them and only had my daughter's earrings and necklace, a ring from my youngest daughter, 8, and my husband's watch in her house. According to her, she did that because she wanted to help her father with some debts that he has, because she didn't want to have to sacrifice college to reduce expenses. She works as a nanny, and sometimes that money wasn't enough to help her family, and she noticed that since my daughter wasn't affected by losing jewellery, so she thought about taking them because she needed them more. Her parents confirmed that they have a debt, but they would never have thought she would do something like this to help. They apologised and promised to return every penny of the things that were already sold, but my husband told them that it was not necessary, that her giving us back the jewellery and the watch was enough. She gave us everything back and also apologised, and we told her that this time we were not going to involve the police, but that not everyone would do the same if they caught her stealing again. We also made it clear to her that she's no longer welcome in our home, and that my daughter will have to finish the project for both of them because we don't want her to be involved with her either. And that was it, and we haven't heard from her since. A lot of people said we were idiots for not getting the police involved, and the truth is we might be, but we weren't going to ruin an entire family's life over a watch and some earrings. I also read comments saying that my daughter knew that she stole, but that is not the case. She loses things all the time, or sometimes her sisters take her things without permission, so she never suspected that her friend was the one stealing from her. That's why she kept inviting her over. Alrighty, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, I suppose there's a little bit of comfort knowing that she stole because she wanted to help her parents, but yeah, that's definitely no excuse. And I love the way Opie went about it too. Getting the police involved is just unnecessary for this situation. I mean, just going off clues in Opie's post, it sounds like they're a pretty well-off family, and there's just no need to go after them like that. Hopefully the kid gets a stern talking to, and lessons learned. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my pregnant girlfriend because I don't want to be a father? I, 25 male, have been with my now ex, 23 female, for a little over 3 months. I always made sure we used lots of precautions when having sex. She was on birth control and I always used condoms. I wanted to avoid a child. I've known for a long time that I do not want children. I find them annoying and they would severely limit my ability to do the things I enjoy, like travelling and outdoor stuff, etc. Unfortunately for me, my ex didn't have her period when she was supposed to, and it turns out she's now pregnant. She came to me and told me she was pregnant. The first thing I did was suggest an abortion. We don't live in a state where it's legal, so I offered to pay for her flight and hotel, and told her I'd be happy to come with her to get it done. I have a stable job and make good money, so it isn't or wouldn't be too much of a hit for me. She works as a receptionist and doesn't make a lot, so I figured it would be better for me to pay. That's when she told me she was hoping to keep it, and that she wanted me to help her raise the kid as its father. I have no intention of being a father. Beyond just my dislike of children, I'm not ready for that. I made it very clear that I didn't want the baby, but she kept insisting that I'd have a change of heart once it's born, and to just try it out. After a long exchange, I told her that if she intended to keep the baby, I would not act as a father. I broke up with her and told her that I would pay child support once it's born, but that I expect her to respect my wishes and keep the child away from me. Since then, she's been frantically texting me, begging me to come back, and telling me she'd forgive me. She sent me voicemails crying. It does hurt to see, but I haven't responded. The other day, she texted me saying how she can't raise the kid alone, and how I'm basically forcing her to get the abortion just by leaving. She called me a jerk, an abuser, and a sexist. She ended the text begging me to talk again. I certainly feel crappy. I really liked her and we had a good relationship before this, but I just don't want to be a father. I'm already bitter about the fact that I'll have to pay child support for 18 years, which will somewhat limit me financially. I also feel it isn't right for a parent who doesn't want their child to be involved. I just end up taking that pent-up anger and bitterness out on the child who is ultimately innocent, which I feel isn't right. With all this said, I come here to ask, am I the a-hole? I certainly feel like one, but I also stand by what I did. Clarifying edits. On the topic of a vasectomy, I tried. I met with a doctor last year and asked about getting one, but he refused and said every doctor he knows won't do it until you're at least 30. It's a conservative state, and while I dislike the politics, I was born and raised here, so I'm still attached to the state, and have never felt the urge to leave. Someone said I should have flown elsewhere to get one, and I guess they're right, but I just didn't think about that. On the topic of birth control, I bought the condoms myself, so they were fine. Whenever we were done, I'd throw used condoms in the dumpster, so I don't think she went dumpster diving. I asked her out on our first date if she was taking birth control, and she said yes. I took her for her word. Maybe foolish to just believe her, but if she was lying, then she'd be the first I've met to lie about that. Most girls I've met are honest about it. I assumed she was on the pill since that's the main birth control I know, but maybe she was on something else that I'm not educated enough on. That being said, I'll follow your advice and lawyer up and get a paternity test. I don't know how long that will take, but whenever I get it done, I'll update here with results. Thank you for your judgments. I've been away for a bit, but I'm catching up and trying to read what I can. I'll be checking back periodically and replying to some people. All further feedback is appreciated. Okay, let's look at some of these comments. If she continues pregnancy, you should also ask for a paternity test as you are actively trying to prevent pregnancy. She can take a blood test while pregnant with no risk for the baby. That has to be done before you're on the birth certificate. You've only been together 3 months. Just be sure before you sign anything. Just try it. You'll like it if you try it, is reasonable logic for trying an unfamiliar food, not so for whether being a parent is for you. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. To be honest, the first 3 months is the getting to know phase of a relationship, much like the 3-month probation at a new job. You'd be wrong to try to force yourself to stay in a relationship that your heart isn't into. It will only end up toxic, bitter, and unhappy for all of you. Pay your child support after the DNA test, get a lawyer, and set your boundaries. Yeah, some solid advice there. Let's go to the first update. I have hired one of the better family court lawyers in my state. She has someone representing her pro bono. It has been made clear to my ex and her representative that she is not to contact me personally, and that all contact will go through my lawyer from now on. A paternity test is scheduled for next Wednesday. I don't know how long it will take to get results, but the test is happening. If the child is mine, we'll go to court to determine child support payments, and we'll set up the process for me to sign away my rights. Another clarifying edit. I was gone for a while, and while reading through some comments, I found a topic I'd like to clarify for anyone left who still checks here and cares. At the beginning, I said I made sure to use lots of precautions. I had thought people would take away from that the idea that I had made my intention to not have kids clear at the beginning. Just wanted to make that clear. She told me she wasn't looking to have kids. I should have been more clear about this, I guess. I was under the assumption that she didn't want kids, which is why I was blindsided by her change of heart once she was actually pregnant. I understand it happens, feelings change or whatever, but for me it was a big shock. When I go to get the paternity test started, she will also have an ultrasound, and we'll talk then. I'll update on Wednesday. By the way, the text will take a few days to process, so I'll also update with results. Okay, Opie answers some more comments. One commenter asks about providing emotional support and getting back together with the ex. Opie replies, I don't want to give her emotional support and lead her on. If I'm around, she'll think I plan to get back together and be a present father, which I don't want. She should know that I don't want the kid. That way she's more likely to go through with an abortion or adoption. I also don't want to be present for the birth for similar reasons. Plus, I'm pretty certain that even if I did change my mind on the kid, I wouldn't want to be with her. She expects me to get back together with her to raise the kid, but if I did end up seeing the kid and wanting her, I'd have to go through some annoying legal procedure to try and secure joint custody or something. That is a mess in so many ways that isn't worth suffering through. I'm still certain I don't want the kid, but if I suddenly changed my mind to want the kid and then didn't get any custody, that would be pretty depressing. I'd rather just stay unattached and deal with any regrets I have later. One commenter asked about his family, their support and the future, as well as other things. OP says, there's a lot to unpack here, so I'll try to go piece by piece. Obviously what you've experienced is very difficult, so I'm sorry about that. I'm glad you found yourself. About my parents. Yes, they want grandkids. They've been hounding me ever since I turned 20 about when I'm going to give them grandkids. I've already told them I don't want kids, and my sister is lesbian, so they're really disappointed at this point. If they found out about the kid and that I was leaving, they would be furious, so I'm just not telling them. About how I feel in the future. I honestly cannot say 100%. I know that right now I 100% don't want kids, and I'm going off that feeling to assume how I'll feel in the future will be the same. Everyone lives with some level of regret, so I've come to peace with the idea that if I end up regretting this, I'll just have to move on and live with that like everyone else. If for some reason I felt regret, I wouldn't try to contact the kid. I'd just keep it to myself and keep chugging along like usual. If the kid does find me one day, I'll just be honest depending on how I'm feeling. Either, I was 25 and I didn't want kids and I still don't, sorry. Or, I was 25 and I thought I didn't want kids, I wasn't ready. It's been one of the biggest regrets of my life and I'm sorry. Depending on how I'm feeling, most likely the former. I don't know what gave you the impression that I've softened to the idea of having kids. I still firmly don't want kids. I just feel pity for the child, because it isn't really their fault. I don't exactly feel good about leaving the child on a moral level, but on a personal level of what is best for me, I feel very confident in leaving. It's certainly a selfish decision, but I've been very upfront with the fact that I'm a selfish person. I feel bad about it, but I'm putting myself and my own personal needs first in this situation by doing what I think is best for me. Another commenter says, "It's extremely unlikely that she would give up the baby once she's already got the child in her arms and goes through the process. It's extremely emotional and we're wired to take care of our young. Chances of her giving up the baby are like 2%. She really needs to stop hoping you're all going to be a happy family someday because this is awful for her self-esteem. She can be happy as a single mother, even if it's very hard. Does she have family willing to help? Her own parents? Motherhood is a huge adjustment, and doing it with zero support is awful. PPD is not a joke. She can totally do this without you, but it would be a lot better if she had at least some support from her family." OP replies, "I don't know that much about her family, haven't met them, just heard bits and pieces. Apparently her dad has some drinking issues and her mum is pretty closed off. They live in a different city too. That's about the extent of what I know, but I doubt they'd be able to help her much." Another commenter says, "I would consider locking down that pathway before she realizes it could lead to your mum. You know, blocking her before she sees your mum comment on a post and making everything go through a lawyer. By the sounds of it, if she makes contact with them, it sounds like they would definitely take her side on the matter. You definitely have contact with your ex and her child because your family will be involved. I'm not saying you need them, but I feel like within 18 years they'll know, especially considering how the at-home DNA test and programs are. Either way, that doesn't change my mind on you. You're making the right call here, and now the ball's in your ex's court. I don't know if you're considering moving cities, but you should to increase the odds of you having no contact. I live near and work in a city of 1.5 million people, and I still have made contact with people I never thought I would again." OP replies, "I don't have a Facebook, so my mum doesn't comment on my posts, but I'll take the advice and block my ex. I have a good job and I like my apartment a lot, so I don't plan on moving from my city. Even if I see them, I plan to get some sort of legal agreement signed through my lawyer prohibiting direct contact, so hopefully they'd just have to ignore me if they saw me." To be honest, I respect OP's upfrontness about the situation. I mean, we can all be judgmental about his decisions, and rightfully so in some aspects, but, he's really sticking to his morals here. Alrighty, on to the next update. "Sorry for the lateness, but I got the test done and the results are in. The baby is a girl and is indeed mine. When I saw my ex, I had a talk with her. We talked about birth control and she told me she was on birth control and had no intention of having children. But once she found out she was pregnant, she changed her mind. I believe her. She was hopeful that I would come around to that perspective, so I made it very clear that I will not be a part of the child's life and gave her 3 options. Option 1. Get an abortion in any state of her choosing and I'll pay for her to stay there for a week. So she could basically take a vacation to Hawaii or New York City or LA on my dime, but I need to come with and get confirmation that she had the abortion. Option 2. Put the child up for adoption and I'll pay for all the medical expenses that come with having a child. Option 3. Keep the child and I pay my court-ordered child support, sign away my parental rights, have my name taken off the birth certificate, and have absolutely zero involvement with her or the child beyond my monthly payments." It was a tough conversation and she didn't take it well. She ended up crying for a while. She kept telling me that I would be a loving and kind dad, asking me to try fatherhood and think about how well our relationship was going before this happened, and to imagine our future together with a daughter. I told her I'm still firmly against fatherhood, and she was devastated. She refuses to get an abortion, but is scared to be a single mother at 23, even though she wants the child. She told me that if I'm with her during the birth, see and hold the child, but still feel nothing for the baby after all that, then she will consider adoption. She also said if I change my mind about fatherhood, she will be waiting with open arms to enjoy parenthood together as a loving family and would hope I'd propose. I have made it very clear I don't want any involvement. I'm not sure what I should do since I would prefer for the baby to be put up for adoption rather than have to pay child support for 18 long years, but I also don't want to be around the baby at all or present during the birth. Advice is appreciated. Yeah, I don't know if there's much more OP can do here. He's got to wait for her to make the decision now. Let's go to the last update. Finally back with another update. Over the past few days, I've gotten a new influx of advice. Some of this advice has been helpful or interesting. Some really good ideas were given to me, so I set up a lunch with my ex yesterday, and we had a long and productive chat. It was the first time we had talked in over a month. All that communication had been through lawyers. I decided the best way to ensure the conversation was productive was to set ground rules and make sure we were operating from reality. Both of us haven't been being realistic. I told her that I was giving up on abortion or adoption. It was what I wanted, but I already know it isn't going to happen at this point. My ex wants the baby. I know she does, and I told her I know. I won't be bringing up abortion or adoption to her again. It just isn't worthwhile. I have to work within reality, and at this point that means under the assumption that she will keep the baby. I also told her it's time for her to give up on me. I made it very clear to her that I will not be getting back together with her no matter what, even if she aborts the baby. She will never have the happy family with me that she wants. I made it clear she needs to drop the idea because it won't happen and it makes it impossible to find any real solutions to this situation. She acknowledged that there will be no happy family between us. I think reality is finally set in for both of us at this point. Nobody is going to get what they want, so it's time to compromise. The new goal that we've agreed upon is this: provide my ex and our daughter with the support that they desperately need right now, while also allowing me to have zero involvement with raising the child. In other words, I will not be involved in raising the child whatsoever, but will try to give my ex the resources she needs to make sure the child has a good life. I won't be in the delivery room and I'll never see her. I will simply provide money. My ex has $25,000 in student debt that she needs to pay off. She's only making around $60,000 a year from her job, and she will be a single mother, which means child's expenses and such. By contrast, I only have around $10,000 in student debt left to pay off, and after a little over 2 years working at the company I'm at, I just got a promotion and significant pay rise, so I'm now making roughly $150,000 a year. Additionally, there is plenty of room for further growth in my field, with income growth potential all the way up to $325,000 per year, although that is still pretty far off in the future. I don't say any of this to brag, just to put our situations in perspective. I've had all my debts paid off by the end of 2025, plus I've been setting aside money into a savings account and investment funds. What I'm trying to say is I have money and she doesn't, so I'll be making up for my lack of presence with significant financial support. I would prefer to avoid court, so I worked with my ex to find a fair monetary support system. All of what comes next is a handshake agreement between the two of us. If someone has a problem, they can go to court and determine child support that way. We talked for a while about what a fair payment system would look like, and this is what we decided on. I will pay for all of my ex's medical expenses that come with her carrying the baby, including doctor's visits and hospital bills. When the baby is born, I'll pay my ex $2,000 a month in child support to pay for the child's expenses. This will leave my ex with breathing room and allow her to continue paying off her student debt. We don't have exact math, but our estimate we found using phone calculators was that it would probably take her between 6 or 8 more years to pay off all of her student debt. Once she has paid all her debt off, the monthly child support payment will drop to $1,000 a month. If my ex finds a man who she marries and takes on the role of a father to the child, then my child support payments will stop since he'll be able to provide an extra income stream. Additionally, I will create a savings account that my ex will be able to see. Starting the day the baby is born, I will deposit $500 into the account. I will then deposit $500 into the account on the first day of the month, every month, until the girl turns 18. At that point, she will be given access to the account as a college fund. Based on the math we did, the account will have roughly $108,000 in it, not including interest. I don't know how much college will cost by then, but that should be a significant help for her to pay for college. If she decides not to go to college, I will empty the fund into my personal savings account, so she only gets the money if she attends college. The fund has another condition on it, but I'll get to that later. Beyond money, my ex and the child will need emotional support. This is where my lovely sister comes in. She and her wife love kids. They've been looking into adoption for a few months now. Based on another comment I got, which I cannot find anymore and it's driving me crazy, I think whoever wrote it deleted it, from a woman whose brother was in a similar situation. The woman decided to take on an active role and helped his ex raise the child of her own volition because she liked kids. Knowing my sister was already interested in raising a child with her wife, I reached out and asked her if she would be interested in helping my ex. She was very excited about the prospect if my ex would have her. I asked my ex what she thought, and she said yes. My sister and her wife will act as a support system for my ex. When they have time, they will help my ex with things like babysitting, giving her any advice she needs, or just being there for her to talk to. They'll also be extra family for the child, helping make things like birthdays and holidays special. This is where the second condition for the college fund comes in. As I'm sure you've noticed, my sister is lesbian. I've gotten many questions asking why I don't want my parents involved with the child. Let me answer them. My sister came out at 14. From then on, she was the scum of the earth in our house. My parents are extremely religious and very homophobic, so as soon as she came out, they hated her. No more birthdays, no more Christmas, no more family dinners. They gave her the absolute bare minimum necessities to survive and then left her alone otherwise. Obviously, it was extremely toxic. What they did was awful, and my sister has rightly gone no contact with them. My second condition for the college fund is that my ex cannot tell them about the child or let them meet her. What they want most in the world is grandchildren, and I will not give them that joy. My ex has my sister's help and support, so she doesn't need my parents. I made it clear that if I ever find out about her visiting them with the child, there will be no college fund. Finally, I want to talk about me writing a letter. Based on advice from someone whose father came back and then left, they told me not to come back, but to write a letter to my daughter as closure. I don't want to come back, so I thought it was a great idea. The letter will explain why I'm not around and this whole situation. I'm going to be truthful, but try to also be gentle in the letter. The goal is to make it clear that I didn't leave because of the particular hatred towards her, but just because I never wanted to be a father in the first place. I'll also include something about how hard her mother tried to make me reconsider, and how much her mother loves her. I'll end it by wishing her good luck in life. The letter will be officially notarized and will be signed by both me and my ex. When she turns 18, if she has questions about me and wants them answered, my ex will give her the letter. If the letter still can't satisfy her and she wants further answers, I've given permission for her to talk to me in person. I feel I owe it to her to answer her questions in person, if that's what she needs for closure. My ex also felt strongly about wanting my name on the birth certificate, so I've agreed to that. In summary, my ex will keep the child. I will provide child support payments. I will provide a college fund on the condition that the child goes to college and my parents are never involved in this situation. My sister and her wife will help my ex by acting as an extra support system for her, and I will write a letter to my daughter explaining why I'm not present that will be given to her only if she wants it, as a way for her to gain closure. By the way, this will likely be my last update. Things are mostly figured out. Thank you for all the advice and help. Also, for anyone who hasn't seen, I'll be getting a vasectomy in Colorado in February 2024. I'd already said so, but I'll put it here too. Okie dokie folks, and that's the end of that story. Gee, a bit of an epic, but we got there in the end. Yeah, all in all, it was a pretty level-headed situation, I think. Opie and the ex came up with a pretty sound plan, and nobody really put up any major roadblocks throughout the whole thing. So yeah, pretty good ending. Grossing mother-in-law out on purpose. For as long as I've known my husband, mother-in-law has had a weird habit of complaining about everything he owns or does. As our relationship progressed, she began to do the same to me. It usually starts with a compliment, "Oh, that's a nice chair," which is immediately followed by her whining to DH. "I never got to buy such chairs. I always had to spend my money on you and your brother." It got 100 times worse when we moved in together. He dared to move 30 minutes away from her. 1,000 times worse when we got married back in May. The woman wanted us to book a smaller venue because her own wedding was just so tiny, and 1,000,000 times worse earlier this month when we told her I was pregnant. "Oh, it would be nice if you had a natural birth. You know, both of mine had to be C-sections because of all the complications I had." Lady, I'm 2 months along. She basically tries to guilt her own son and daughter-in-law out of having nicer things than her. I never let it bother me, but I noticed my husband has been getting more upset about this lately. A couple weeks ago, I noticed she stopped whining about our dog. When I asked my husband, he told me mother-in-law had stepped on doggy crap while they were out on a walk. Her favourite heels got dirty. She cleaned them up, but was clearly still disgusted. Apparently that's all it took for her to stop commenting on how she could never have dogs because father-in-law hated them. So, I had an idea. Throughout this past month, I've been finding new ways to invoke her disgust before she gets the chance to make my husband feel guilty for ever being a child. She likes my dress? Thanks, my great-grandma died in it. She likes our couch? Thanks, the dog puked on it last night. She likes our new car? Thanks, your future grandchild was conceived in the back seat. She likes my vinyl collection? Thanks, wait till you see all my Nickelback LPs. Just kidding, I don't have any Nickelback LPs. Point is, it's working. Mother-in-law has complained less this month than she has in the 6 years since I met my husband. Is it because she thinks we're gross? Maybe, but I honestly don't care. That's great. The mother-in-law / daughter-in-law dynamic is always an interesting one. Let's look at the comments. She doesn't think you're disgusting, she thinks you're unhappy, and that's all she ever really wanted for her children. You've made an old woman very content. Now just be sure to never enjoy anything and she'll stay happy. What a miserable cow. Oh, the possibilities. Gosh, I see you painted your bedroom. Yes, this is the colour of my dad's sex dungeon. That's a real skill, turning negativity into something you can laugh at together. What a keeper. Okay, Opie writes another story. It's titled, Mother-in-law is upset we're not having a girl. I'm 17 weeks pregnant. From the very beginning, mother-in-law was convinced her first grandbaby was going to be a girl. Literally days after we announced I was expecting, she gave us 2 packs of pink onesies, started referring to my barely developed blob child as Laura, apparently the name she wanted for the daughter she never had, and called my 94-year-old grandmother just to get her to confirm boys aren't common in my paternal family. She's been pestering us about a gender reveal party since the start of my 2nd trimester, and threw a small tantrum when we told her we weren't having one. She's been rude about every decision we made about the baby. She hated all our boy and girl names, criticised our nursery ideas, and has been insistent on me having a natural birth, which I probably will anyway, but both her deliveries were C-sections, so I have no idea where that's coming from. It became clear that she wholeheartedly thought I'd only gotten pregnant to make her a grandma. Anyway, neither me or my husband cared about our baby's sex, but we spontaneously decided to find out during my latest ultrasound this week. It's a boy. We're over the moon. When we got home, I called my mum, and she's excited. I called my dad. He's surprised. I called my sister. She's happy. Everyone's happy. My husband called his mum. Someone put that poor injured dolphin out of its misery for the love of Christ. I swear I could hear her banshee wailing from across the living room. The phone wasn't even on speaker. Toni Collette's character in Hereditary had less of a breakdown. My husband let her cry and scream incoherently. I'm pretty sure she was saying, "My Laura," between her sobs for about a minute before he told her to call him back when she's calmer and hung up on her. He was devastated. I think up until that point he hadn't registered how obsessed his mum was with us having a girl. He just thought she was excited to find out the sex. He was so excited to tell her. I managed to cheer him up and we told a couple more people. We told his brother, who was very happy for us. Some of our friends didn't even know we were pregnant, so we included the sex in our announcement. The next day we were going over our boy names to figure out which worked best with our last names. That's when mother-in-law called us back. We were both hoping she'd apologise for her tantrum. Instead, she immediately started going on about dozens of articles she'd read about how often ultrasounds were inaccurate and questioning my doctor's qualifications based on what university she'd gone to. A screaming match started between her and my husband. He was telling her off for reacting the way she did. She was trying to defend herself, and failing miserably, by claiming it was our fault, that we knew how much this meant to her, and that we'd ruined her day by blindsiding her the way we did. My favourite part? Mother-in-law, quote, "And you had to tell me now? You couldn't wait until the gender reveal?" Husband, "Mum, for the 10th time we weren't doing a gender reveal." And after some back and forth, it turns out she thought we were going to throw a surprise gender reveal party, just for her. Yeah, right. Mother-in-law eventually did apologise for upsetting us, but still made it very clear she was disappointed. We don't care. She lives half an hour away and hates driving to our place, so it's not like we'll see her much until the baby's here. We're still ticked, but we're used to that. Feeding the kraken never helps. So, in conclusion, we're having a son, and if we ever have a daughter, we're not naming her Laura. Edit. To clarify, mother-in-law was never expecting a girl and never experienced any pregnancy losses. She always wanted a girl, but had 2 sons instead. Laura was the name she always wanted to give her daughter, not the name of a child she lost. I'd be more sympathetic if she was grieving, but that's not the case. Yeah, she sounds like a nightmare. Let's go to another anecdote from the same user. I, 27 female, have been with my husband, 29 male, for 7 years. I remember that early in our relationship, one of the first things he expressed insecurity about was his nose, specifically about its width. He never wanted surgery, but thinks his nose is too big for his face. I never thought that true, and for a long time I wondered where he'd gotten that idea from. Then I met his mother, and all my doubts went out the window. I don't hate her, but the woman complains about everything, and she seems particularly interested in criticising her sons. Barely anything about my husband or his older brother is good enough for her, and if it is, she is quick to imply they don't deserve it. According to my brother-in-law, that behaviour didn't start until father-in-law passed, about 8 years ago, so they don't usually hold it against her. But to me, it seems like she legitimately doesn't want her children to be happy. Most times we talk to her, my husband ends up devastated. She constantly complains about me, his job, our apartment, and his appearance. She has, on more than one occasion, suggested he get a nose job. That tends to upset him, so I always try to shut that down as quickly as possible. We got married in early May. The photos were ready about 2 months later, and we created a shared album on Google Photos for our friends and family, including mother-in-law. I got pregnant during our honeymoon. Can't recommend Dubrovnik enough, and I'm now 24 weeks along. We've had problems with mother-in-law concerning my pregnancy. We're having a boy and she had a breakdown because she wanted a girl. That forced us to put her on an info diet. That was 2 months ago, and she has since improved her behaviour. Because of that, we said yes when she invited us to go to a mall near her place to shop for baby clothes last Saturday. My husband had an emergency at work and ended up not coming, but we still managed to have a good time. When we were done, she invited me back to her place. I hadn't been there in a while, and I quickly saw that she'd gotten some of our wedding pictures up on the wall. I instantly noticed something was wrong with them, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was yet. Mother-in-law saw what I was looking at, and proudly announced that she'd gotten someone to, quote, fix his nose. In other words, she gave her son a Photoshop nose job on his wedding pictures. I couldn't believe it. I never thought she'd stoop so low. It wasn't even a good nose job. It was so bad that my husband's face didn't look real. He looked like a Ken doll, and not in the hot Ryan Gosling way. Mother-in-law must have seen how mad I got, because she instantly tried to defend herself. She tried to make the point that her son deserved to look his best on his wedding day, and I should have convinced him to get the real nose job before our ceremony. I made up an excuse to leave, but I could tell she knew the real reason. She's been calling and texting me almost every day since. I've been ignoring her, but she's always either apologising, accusing me of overreacting, or begging me not to tell my husband. I know it seems trivial, but I'm outraged, and the more I think about it, the more disgusted I get. I could never imagine doing something like that to my child. I haven't told my husband yet, mostly because we've both been busy with his work this week, but also because I have no idea how to. His mother was finally starting to be a better person around him and his brother, and I know it will break his heart to find out about this. I don't know what to do. I have to tell him, but I can't figure out how. I know he loves his mother, and I don't want to damage whatever relationship they still have. Mother-in-law also mentioned she intended to send the improved pictures to some of her relatives, so I have to find a way to shut that down. So how can I tell my husband his mother photoshopped his face on our wedding pictures? More importantly, what would be the most peaceful way to do it? Wow, well, surely the husband would find out eventually. Like, all he has to do is go to his mum's place. Like, surely he'd notice instantly. Let's look at the comments. I would suggest that you sit your husband down and say that something came up when you were out with his mum that you need to tell him about. Tell him that you went back to her place and saw she had printed up wedding photos, but that she had photoshopped his face to change his appearance. Keep it short and don't beat around the bush. Then just be supportive and let him react however he's going to react. I really don't understand why his mum would tell you not to say anything. Does she not realise that at some point he'd see those pictures himself? Opie replies, I don't get it either. I've spoken to a couple friends about it, and so far our best theory is that she didn't think the Photoshop was that obvious until I was able to point it out. That still barely makes any sense, and I have no idea what she was thinking. I don't think there is any way it will be an easy conversation, but I would frame it from the perspective of your child's future interactions with her. If his mum is going to treat your child with even a fraction of vitriol she puts towards your husband, I would question whether you even want her in your child's life. It seems your husband is willing to put up with his mum's behaviour in regards to himself, but maybe his opinion will change when the focus is on your child. What is she going to do if your baby gets his nose? Berate the child and Photoshop pictures of him and her until she croaks? Yikes, she sounds like a delight. Alright, on to the update for that last one. Hey dudes, I'm back. Thank you to everyone who took the time to offer me advice on my last post. First of all, I want to clarify that not telling my husband what his mother did was never an option. She wouldn't remove the pictures from her house unless I either told him or threatened her. Had I done the latter, she could use that against me in the future or even imply I agreed with her. Plus, he was bound to find out at some point, and I knew it would be better if it came from me. I asked how to do it, not whether I should. So I sat him down last Saturday and broke the news. I explained what the pictures were and mother-in-law's excuses for them. I also showed him the text she'd sent me since my visit. The whole conversation I was calm and straightforward, but made it very clear that not only did mother-in-law's actions completely disgust me, but I never agreed with her about his appearance. He's the most gorgeous man I've ever met, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with his nose. I also made sure to point out that the photoshopped nose made him look like front-facing Phineas from Phineas and Ferb, and mother-in-law needs to get her eyes checked if she really thought it looked good. I thought the news would hurt him, and I was right. He didn't cry or anything, but I could see it in his face. The odd but common combination of disappointment and acceptance. He knew his mother wouldn't change, but still had some hope. It was almost heartbreaking to watch. But for the first time in a while, he seemed to believe me when I said his nose was normal. He told me that now he just knew how ridiculous mother-in-law was willing to be. Her opinion meant a lot less to him. So even though he's hurt, he feels stronger than ever. As many of you suggested, I told him that he was free to approach the situation however he pleased, but I don't want to be around his mother anymore. Most importantly, I don't want her around my son, or any other kids we might have, not only because of the guilt-tripping tantrums that have become her standard behaviour, but also because of the way she treats the people she's supposed to love. I know she loves her family, but I doubt she knows how love works. If she's willing to treat her sons like this, I fully expect her to be even worse to her grandchildren. In the end, my husband and I decided we're going very low contact with mother-in-law until the holidays. Some of his relatives are throwing a party the week before Christmas and she'll be there. We thought about skipping it, but he has cousins he hasn't seen in years coming for the party. He's been looking forward to seeing them for months, and it doesn't feel fair to let mother-in-law ruin his excitement. After the holidays, we'll decide how to proceed. Regardless, she won't be allowed to see our son at the hospital when he's born, and once we bring him home, she won't be left alone with the baby. It doesn't matter how much she tries to improve, that is not something we're willing to budge on. In spite of everything, my husband doesn't want to cut ties with his mother, and I understand that. Even if he wanted to, he can't go fully no contact without cutting off the rest of his maternal family as well, which he is firmly against. What works best for now is to treat her like Domino's Pizza. She exists and that's fine, but we're not getting involved until she actually improves. I also decided to tell some of my own family about this, and everyone I've talked to agrees that mother-in-law went over the line. My father is a narcissist who I'm mostly low contact with due to his entitled behaviour. Most recently, he tried to make me disinvite his ex from my wedding so he could bring his mistress, and even he was offended on my husband's behalf. And if even my mediocre respect your elders father thinks your children are right about you being a jerk, you've probably gone too far. We talked to my brother-in-law, and he's the one who informed mother-in-law of our decision. She didn't take the news well. She's now trying to call both me and my husband and keeps texting apologies and promises to take the pictures down. We're ignoring her. Brother-in-law visited her yesterday and apparently the pictures are gone. She believed that was enough for us to forgive her, but he clarified that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Before anyone calls us dramatic, this isn't just about the Photoshop. This is about the damage she's caused in both her sons' lives. I was abused in a similar fashion in my teens by Dad's ex, and I refuse to allow my child to grow up believing he's anything less than beautiful. Same goes for my husband. That's all. Again, thank you guys. Alrighty, and we've reached the end of that one. Give me your thoughts down below. Maybe you've got a family member who's similar to this mother-in-law. I hope not, but who knows. Anyway, let's jump to the next one. Alrighty, this next one's from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user Living Pound, and it's titled, Would I be the a-hole for not telling my husband I'm pregnant until after he's back from his trip? My husband is a stay-at-home dad to our 4-year-old daughter. He's an extremely devoted and loving dad who has barely spent any time away from her, and she's a major daddy's girl. In 2 weeks, he's going to his best friend from college for a whole week. He's going to be reuniting with his college friends that he hasn't seen or spent time with altogether since our own wedding. He originally wanted the 3 of us to go, but I convinced him to just go himself because I think being alone would make him enjoy it more so he didn't have to do childcare. I think our daughter is too young for that big of a trip for people she's only met once, and also I'm planning on taking a week off work and would love to spend one-on-one time with her that we rarely get. This morning I learned that I'm pregnant. We've been trying for some time now and really want lots of kids, so I'm over the moon and I know my husband and daughter will be too. I've not told my husband yet. My first pregnancy was a huge prepper, and when I first learned I was pregnant, he went into overdrive with preparing, researching, and taking care of me. He was incredibly helpful and loving, and it was so sweet, but he also really worked himself up and got stressed. I don't think it'll be as bad with this one, but I could still see it being a lot. I honestly don't really want to tell him until after his trip, in 3 weeks, even though it's a huge secret for me to keep. I think he'll potentially be upset, which with him is very, very tame, when he finds out I'd known for 3 weeks but would get over it fast. My concern with telling him is I could honestly see it ruining his trip. I can just imagine the constant texts asking me for questions for the millionth times, or sharing his most recent thoughts. I really, really want him to have a chill and fun trip, and be able to decompress. And for myself, I want to be able to just focus on having a great time with my girl. But I also don't want to just hide something so hugely important to our family from him, since he obviously deserves to know. I can't really decide. Would I be the a-hole if I decided to wait to tell him until after his trip? Yeah, that's actually pretty tricky. I can see the benefits of both sides here. I mean, chances are he'll probably be more chill about his second kid. But still, yeah, you kind of don't know how he would react. Let's see what the comments think. Not the a-hole. That being said, make sure that you don't tell anyone else until he knows. Try to plan some sort of surprise for him when he gets home. Not a party or anything, just something small to surprise him with the news. Congratulations. Not the a-hole. You can make a surprise for when he comes back. My sister-in-law did this for her husband. She waited 2 weeks to tell him on his birthday because they'd been trying for 3 years and finally had money put aside for IVF. She went to the first appointment and found out she was pregnant. Not the a-hole, but as others have said, don't tell anyone else unless you want the universe to conspire to have him find out from someone that isn't you. Don't tell your parents, don't tell your siblings, don't tell your in-laws, don't tell your friends. You're taking a risk telling us here. The moment you tell anyone else, the odds are 100% that they'll tell somebody else either intentionally or not, and that will continue in a chain until somebody posts it on Facebook or Twitter, and it goes on a whole big string of connected tellings until somebody on your husband's trip finds out and tells him. Alright, onto the update. So, I hadn't planned to give an update so soon, but even though I'd planned on waiting until after my husband's trip, after a few days it became clear to me I could not wait that long, lol. He definitely knew something was up with me. I'd been getting crazy excited and been chomping at the bit to tell him, and honestly it just didn't feel good to keep something that big from him for so long. We've been trying for this baby for close to a year now, and it's such happy news, and I decided it's just not worth it. But I still wanted to give him the surprise I had planned. I asked him to go out to the store to grab something real quick, and before he got home I had my daughter put a shirt I'd gotten her that had "Only Child" crossed out with "Big Sister" written underneath. When he came through the front door, she sprinted to him yelling about how her shirt had a secret message for him. He was very taken aback, lol, and it took him a second, but once it clicked he was beyond excited, as was our very confused daughter once we told her. She started dancing around the house singing about having a baby sister, which she is adamant it will be, and it was just a really good day. He is still going on his trip, and has not been even close to as stressed as he was last time. If anything, he's looking forward to it even more now, because he knows it's going to be a last chance to really decompress before things become a whole lot crazier. Thank you so much everyone for all of the lovely comments and responses that I got. I really appreciated them all. I showed my husband the post and admitted my original plans and he got a big kick out of it, lol, but he's very glad that I told him before the trip. Thanks again. Oh, there you go guys, all in all, good ending. And yeah, I can imagine that'd be really hard to keep from someone for that long. And also, yeah, I kind of predicted correctly that he wasn't going to be as stressed this time. I think the first one's always a bit of a learning curve, full of stress and what-ifs, you know, but the second one would be exponentially easier, I'd imagine anyway. Maybe not, I haven't had kids yet, but I'm basing it on a lot of stories that I've read. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below.
I found out about my wife's alter ego after I accidentally opened her Google Docs on the home computer. This is weird as hell. My wife and I have been together for 10 years and married for 7. We have a 3-year-old daughter. I thought I knew everything about her. There were no secrets, but that was a lie. My wife works from home as a freelancer. She sometimes uses the home computer. One day she was taking a bath. Usually when my wife takes a bath, she takes 45 minutes. I was using the home computer because my personal one was in repair shop. I saw my wife's Google account was still logged in. She had Google Docs opened. I got curious because the tab that was open seems like an online book because it had double quotation marks. I got invested in it and read the first chapter. It was interesting. By the 4th chapter, I realized it was smut. It had many graphic sex scenarios and very detailed. It was a fan fiction. I never knew she wrote fan fiction. When I met her, she was very shy. We didn't have sex until we were 5 months into the relationship. She always came off as prude to me at first, but eventually our sex life got better. I just thought it was because she was more comfortable with me. It was a month ago. Sometimes I read the stories that she wrote. It was all smut. There were like 10 stories in total. The ones I recognized was from Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan, and Harry Potter. There was sex in every position. Some of them I don't even know about. The way she writes those scenes is very stretched out and in detail. It feels like I'm with a different person now. She has not changed yet. She is a devoted wife and mother, but I have questions. Why did she hide it? Was she lying to me about being uncomfortable with sex when we were dating? I know she's had relationships in the past. Does she want sex like in those people in her stories? I'm not really mad that she writes fan fiction, but I'm shocked to discover this side of her. She's a talented writer, but I'm not sure how I feel about her writing about sex. I can't say this to anyone, not even my wife, because she'll be angry at me for reading her stories. Because if she really wanted, she would have told me. Okay, let's go straight to the comments. People's fantasies can be very different from what they would want in real life. I wouldn't assume this means she would want to do what she wrote about. You should stop reading her private stuff. It obviously wasn't meant for you to see, and she has a right to her privacy. Well, that was certainly a surprise for you. I get that you are a bit shocked. Obviously, strangers on the internet who knows neither you nor your wife cannot give you definitive answers to your questions, but I'll try to put it in perspective as I understand it. What you found is very much private. You are right. If she wanted you to know about this, she would have told you. This does not make your wife a different person. Does she know about all your porn searches? Probably not, and that's okay. You guys have a sex life together, and then each of you has their own sex life with themselves. That is normal and healthy and fine. What you found seems to be part of hers, and there is one important fact to consider. Just because she writes about something and therefore lives it in her fantasy does not mean she wants to do that in real life with you. Many people are into R-word fantasies but would never want to actually experience that for real. So I would say, don't be alarmed. You got a peek into something you have no business reading, so don't do that again. You violated her privacy, even though at first you didn't mean to. If I were you, I would not bring it up, but just accept it as something that belongs in her bubble of very personal privacy. You have your own, respect hers. Also, it should go without saying, but her writing smut is not cheating or anything. Don't worry. Everyone is entitled to their fantasies, and that is a separate thing from their partner. By the way, it is quite typical that a woman would prefer written stories as inspiration to get off. I don't want to make overgeneralized blanket statements like all men are blank and all women blank. Obviously, everyone is an individual, but commonly men are very visual in their sexuality. They prefer porn in the form of videos or pictures. Women's sexuality is usually a bit different. Pictures are nice, but for many it's more about feelings, interactions and situations. They prefer the cinema in their mind to that on an actual screen. So written stories work very well in the same way porn videos work for men, and when you can't find the perfect story for you, you might write your own. So, as I understand it, you basically found her personal porn folder, nothing to worry or talk about. Yeah, I think those comments do a pretty good job of summing it up. On to the update. A lot of you people have requested an update, so here it is. First of all, I need to clear things out people have asked. Yes, I do watch porn. My wife knows it. She doesn't have any issue with it. I do not watch it regularly though, only once or twice a year. Also, I do not have a problem with her writing fan fictions, it just struck me like a train when I discovered it. And no, my wife doesn't write underage stuff. All of her characters are adult. No Snape and Hermione sex stuff like the one guy mentioned in my previous post. So now the real update. I asked my wife about her fan fictions. She was stumbling on her words and asked me how I knew about that. I explained everything to her. It was not my intention to snoop, it was just her Google Doc account was logged in. I was going to use that, so I clicked on one of her stories and then got invested in it. She told me she had no intention of hiding it from me. She never told anyone about this because there was just no point. I asked her if she was unhappy with our sex life and wanted to do something more, because her fanfic had BDSM threesome stuff. She told me she is not interested in doing any of that. She is happy with our sex life, but she had a couple of things in her mind she wanted to do, but not now when we're both buried in work. She told me her Google Docs only contain a few stories, but she has more saved on her real computer. I was shocked. I never realized she had such an interest in writing about sex. She further reassured me she doesn't see herself, she just sees the characters. It is similar to playing with dolls, instead she is doing it through writing. And in her writing, she mentions things like cheating, threesome, open relationships. She doesn't like those things and has no interest in it. She was upset because I snooped into her work and I apologized for that. She called me a grandpa for taking it too seriously. Well, that's it. I'll not ask her about her fanfiction projects anymore, though I did ask her to let me read some stuff because the stories are very interesting. If I'm being honest, this is better than actual porn. In actual porn there's no feelings, everything is fake. But in her stories, the characters create sexual tension first, and don't just jump into effing. The characters have stories that keep me engaged. So that's it. Okay folks, that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think of that one in the comments and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was posted on Relationship Advice. It was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "My husband has been going to our neighbour for advice, and it makes me uncomfortable." My husband, Jack, has been spending a lot of time with our neighbour, Sophie. It is worth noting that Jack and Sophie had an affair when she was 19. He was with his ex, and she was with an ex-boyfriend at the time. Sophie is a widow, and her husband died in 2021. Jack and I also married in 2021. Jack and Sophie remained friendly after their affair, partly because their daughters were and still are friends. They've been best friends since primary school. Jack and I have been having some issues in our marriage, and we've been going to counselling for the past 6 months. I brought up in counselling that his friendship with Sophie makes me uncomfortable because he had previously had an affair with her. Jack argued that she is just a friend, and that neither of them have those feelings anymore. Nor is Sophie interested in having a romantic relationship, because no one compares to her late husband. That is apparently something she said to him after he suggested setting her up on a date with a younger co-worker who had expressed an interest in her. There's a lot of crossover between her job and his, which is part of the reason they remained close. In our last session, Jack admitted that he'd been going to Sophie for her advice. He's been going to her to get advice on our relationship as well as an issue with his daughter. The issue with his daughter, I understand, because it is something that Sophie has experience with, and she had a unique perspective that really did help him. The fact that they've been discussing our relationship, I don't feel comfortable with. Jack has been really dismissive about it, arguing that it's the same as me going to my sister for advice. It's not the same. He had an affair with this woman. I recently saw Sophie in the local coffee shop, and she was friendly with me, asking how I was doing, and if my stepdaughter was doing better. I asked her if something was going on between her and Jack. She denied that anything was going on between her and Jack. I asked her to stop giving Jack advice because it's damaging our relationship. Sophie said that she wasn't going to stop giving her friend advice, and that it wasn't her fault that I was insecure in my relationship, but that she doesn't see Jack as anything but a friend despite what I think. Sophie reiterated several times that she was just friends with Jack, and that she isn't that troubled teenager who had an affair with a married man anymore, and that she didn't want to implode her life again. When I got home, I told Jack that I didn't want him to see Sophie anymore. Jack argued with me, saying he wasn't going to stop seeing Sophie when nothing is going on between them. He offered to show me his texts with Sophie, but I told him that I didn't trust him not to delete any texts that he knew would upset me. Jack got frustrated and told me I was being ridiculous by accusing him of being deceitful. When his daughter came home, she was upset because Sophie had texted her daughter after our conversation and told her to come straight home, as she didn't want her daughter to get pulled into whatever is going on between Jack and I like she had been. His daughter was angry and accused me of ruining her friendship before storming up to her bedroom, so Jack is also angry with me about that. I'm just not sure what else to do. Is there anything I can do? The fact he is constantly going to a woman he had an affair with for advice is just making me feel uncomfortable, and nothing he does feels reassuring. Update. We were meant to go to a counselling session this morning. However, Jack had cancelled the session and any further sessions. Jack does not want to continue counselling as he has filed for divorce. He said it was something he'd been considering for a while. Apparently when he'd gone to talk to Sophie the first time, it was to get her recommendation for a divorce lawyer, but she had tried to convince him that we just needed to work out our issues. Jack said that he had told her that he'd lost trust in me, and nothing we did was fixing it. The way I've been acting over him and Sophie also cemented that to him. She gave him the name of a friend, who was a divorce lawyer, but told him that he was making a mistake. It turns out that when Sophie's daughter didn't come to our house as planned after school, it was because Jack had told Sophie he had planned to tell me about the divorce that evening. He backed out on telling me after his daughter came home upset, not wanting to rock the boat with her. My conversation with Sophie was just the excuse she used. If I'm honest, I still don't trust that nothing has been going on between them. The whole thing between them is weird, but my marriage is over, so what they do isn't my problem. I'm not going to fight to be with someone who lies to my face and states they don't trust me. Now for some comments. Honestly though, wasn't the fact they stayed friends, not just acquaintances because of their daughters, not a giant red flag for you at the beginning of your relationship? I'm not at all blaming you for this, but how did you rationalize it to yourself before? Opie replies, No, I just knew they were friendly before our relationship. I moved into the community just after the affair blew up. To start with, they were just people who would be polite to each other in the street, but as the girls got older and they started to have to interact more, they became friends. When Jack and I got together, Sophie pulled away from the friendship, but after her husband died, she reached out to Jack. When she reached out to Jack, I figured it was just Sophie's way of coping with her grief as her world fell apart and she would pull away again. I wish I knew why he thinks that she can give some insights to our marriage. Part of me wondered if him going to her for advice is because he wants legal advice, but she works in criminal law, not family law. Sophie is able to relate to his daughter because they both have an ED. She was able to help him navigate dealing with his daughter without pushing her away. If I bring Sophie up during our sessions, he shuts it down because to him, Sophie isn't the problem, and threatens to stop going to the sessions. I knew they were friendly before our relationship. Okay, now for an update. Jack and I are getting divorced after 2 years of marriage. Jack has 2 children, but this concerns his daughter, Ella, 15. The day Jack told me he wanted a divorce, we told the children after school. Ella was upset when she found out we are divorcing and went to her room. She came down after tea when it was just me and her in the house. Jack and his son had gone out. She asked me why her dad and I were getting divorced and wanted to know if it was because of her. Ella has struggled with an eating disorder, and while it had caused some strain, because we couldn't agree on how to help Ella, it's not the reason. I told Ella that she and her brother are not the reason for the divorce, but that her best friends, Imogen, Mum, Sophie, is. Sophie and Jack had an affair when she was 19. When the affair was exposed, Sophie's life basically imploded, while Jack's pretty much remained the same. Just to state, Imogen is not Jack's daughter. They are friends now, but after the affair they would just be polite in the street, and became friendlier over the years as the girls became close friends at school. I told Ella that Jack's continued friendship with Sophie and the running to her for advice is why we are getting divorced. Ella asked if Jack was having an affair with Sophie. I told her that Jack was denying having an affair with Sophie again, but I suspected it. She asked what I meant by again, so I told her that Sophie and Jack had an affair when Jack was married to her mum. Ella has not been speaking to Jack since our conversation. She has also lashed out at Imogen, telling her that her mum is a tramp and is the reason her family is falling apart. They got into a physical fight at school, which resulted in both Jack and Sophie getting called in to talk about it. In the meeting, Ella told them everything I'd told her the night before and blamed Sophie for ruining her family again. Jack told her that Sophie isn't the reason. Jack told Ella the reason for the divorce is because he no longer trusted me because of a mistake I had made which had sent us to therapy. months of therapy weren't able to repair his trust in me. After Jack and Ella came home, she is now not talking to me either. Jack is furious that I said anything to Ella and that I ruined Ella's friendship with Imogen. Jack snapped that it was not my place to say anything to Ella. He was angry that I was still stuck on his friendship with Sophie and continues to maintain nothing is going on. He told me that Imogen told Sophie in the meeting that she wants to move to a new school where no one knows her mum is a tramp, and that was my fault. Am I the a-hole? Ella asked me for a reason and I told her. I do believe Sophie is the true reason, as the relationship between them is weird. Now for some more comments. Someone asks, "What is the mistake made that caused you to go to therapy?" OP replies, "I kissed another man on a night out with my sister and some friends. One of our friends told him before I was able to. It was a stupid mistake, but I'd been enjoying the attention after feeling neglected by Jack." So you cheated, but then told his daughter that him cheating years earlier in a different relationship was the reason for the divorce? OP replies, "Yes, I did. I have suspected for a while that he and Sophie are in an affair. His relationship with her has made me uncomfortable, long before we started therapy. He runs to her for advice, including about our relationship. I did bring this up in therapy, but he has constantly denied anything going on between them." Ah, okay, so the truth comes out. OP basically kisses another dude on the night out, now Jack doesn't trust her, and now she's blaming Jack's previous relationship for their marriage falling apart. I think I'm getting a clearer picture now. And the verdict in the comments after that little revelation is that OP is the a-hole now. Okay, let's go to the final update. This blew up way more than I thought it would. Both Ella and her brother were aware of the kiss. They were there when Jack was told. I referred to it as a mistake, as that is what Jack refers to it as. He has said that he didn't consider the kiss to be cheating because I was drunk. I've moved out of the house since I made this post, and I'm now staying with my sister until I find a place of my own. At the weekend, Ella reached out to Imogen and apologised for lashing out at her at school. They look like they've made up as Ella stayed at Imogen's over the weekend. Before she left, I apologised to Ella and told her that I shouldn't have dragged her into this. Ella told me that she'd never forgive me, especially for damaging her friendship with Imogen, and is glad that her dad is divorcing me. I offered to pay for the girls to do something together, but Ella refused, saying she didn't want to take my dirty money. I also apologised to Jack, who told me that it was Sophie who needed the apology, not him, as it was her life I'd tried to ruin without a shred of evidence. I tried telling him that I just didn't believe that he and Sophie weren't having an affair, and he snapped, telling me that there's nothing going on with Sophie, and she had actually just started seeing someone. He found out about this because she went to him for advice, as he's the only person she knows who has also lost a spouse and dated again. He then told me that he wanted me to move out, as Ella had told him that she wasn't going to return home while I was still there. So yeah, I've destroyed my relationship with Jack and his children because I was insecure. It's my own doing. I am the a-hole. Wow, a self-admission. We don't get that often. Let's read a few more comments to tie it all up. Wow, what a mess. OP really left out that bit about her kissing another man as long as possible. Wow. I have no idea what the truth of what's going on with Jack and Sophie, and frankly, I wouldn't trust any of the adults in this, but boy do I feel bad for Ella. Whatever else happens, it's ridiculous to stay friends with an ex-mistress and expect your current partner to tolerate it, even after they've asked you to stop. OP kissed another man when she was drunk. Jack had an affair with a 19-year-old girl at 35, cheating on his wife and mother of his kids, and kept an uncomfortable relationship with his affair partner even after his wife constantly told him that made her uncomfortable. Sophie also seems to lack social awareness. Why does she think it's acceptable to keep that relationship with Jack? I'm just sorry for the kids, to be honest. Yeah, this is one of those situations where pretty much everyone has made a mistake at some point except the kids, so it's hard to justify either end. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments.
Today I effed up by getting tested to donate a kidney to my wife. I decided to get tested to see if I could donate my kidney to my wife of 6 years. We have 2 kids together, 4 female and 2 male. My wife got sick just after our son was born, and now is in need of a kidney transplant. We checked with her relatives and none were a match or a viable donor. Last week I got tested. I knew it would be a long shot, so I decided to get tested to see if I could donate. I got a call the other day saying that I was a match. The doctor then said something about wanting to do additional testing due to some information from the HLA tissue test results. I didn't think much of it and agreed. Then the results came in. I was shocked and confused. He explained that because of how DNA information is passed down through generations, a parent to a child could have at least 50% match. Siblings could have a 0 to 100% match. It was rare to have a high match as husband and wife. I asked, what does that mean? He said that my wife and I have an abnormally high match percentage. Long story short, we were related. No, I'm not kidding. I was put up for adoption before I was born, placed into a family that moved across the country. I knew I was adopted, but we didn't have any information about my biological family. It was a closed adoption. I met my wife by chance 8 years ago. I was on a trip from work, and she was working at the site I went to. We worked together for a week. We exchanged numbers and kept in touch. I was sent back there 3 more times that year, and each time we became closer. I was given the opportunity to be transferred out there in a new higher paying position in a different department as hers, and the rest is history. I don't know what to do moving forward, but I know it may be wrong. She is my wife and the mother of our kids. This post is probably going to get removed, but it's all true. Holy moly, what are the odds you meet your long-lost sister after all those years, and then not only meet her, but marry her? Like, what the hell? Let's look at the comments. I mean, at this point, you're married with children already. Can't take that back, so I don't see much point in blowing worlds up, I guess. People have a knee-jerk reaction because incest, but the major reason why incest is freaking weird and wrong is the social and family relationship aspect of it. In OP's case, he literally has never known his wife as a family member, so there's nothing taboo about it. The actual reason for concern by OP is the chance of passing on bad genes and traits that both you and your partner have, but those effects usually need multiple generations to compound in any statistically meaningful way, I think. If all OP's children are perfectly healthy, it's probably completely safe to have more kids who will also turn out completely fine. Hello, I'm a clinical laboratory scientist working in a histocompatibility and immunogenics lab, aka a transplant lab. I do the testing to find out if recipients and donors are matches through genetic typing, donor-specific antibody testing, etc. What the doctor is talking about is most likely haplotype mismatches. When doing HLA typing, we are looking at haplotypes for the class 1 and class 2 genes you receive from each parent. When we are comparing a non-biological donor to a recipient, there can be a few haplotype matches due to population frequency or no haplotype matches. When comparing a biological donor to a recipient, like siblings, they have a 50% chance of being haploidentical. Parents are always haploidentical to their children. This analysis tells us how likely organ rejection could be. So if you are haploidentical to your wife, you are biological siblings. If it's only a few haplotype matches, you could be cousins, or potentially not related, and it's random assortment, and you got lucky. But I can't say what the answer is without seeing the haplotypes myself. I also want you to know that it's possible that the doctor is talking out of his ass. Transplant medicine is a very new science that is still being developed today. Some of the doctors that I work with are extremely knowledgeable and know way more than me about this science. And some of the doctors that I work with, I frequently wonder where they got their degree, so don't blindly trust this guy. You should probably see a geneticist for confirmation. You already have kids and they are assumed healthy since you didn't mention any crazy abnormalities. If you're happy, you're happy. Donate the kidney to your sister wife and continue being great parents to your children. Yeah, I'd feel inclined to agree with that sentiment. It's no point blowing up your life if nothing is actually wrong. But yeah, it is weird to think about, and it's probably something that would linger on your brain for a little bit. Okay, let's go to the first update. This is an update. The original was posted about 2 weeks ago. Yes, I know I misspelled across. Yes, I do have bad grammar and spelling. Yes, I am stressed and freaking out. Yes, I can play the banjo. No, there was no genetic test when we got married. Our state stopped that in the 1990s. No, my wife has never been stuck in the dryer, but once she got stuck under the bed. Joke. The reason I didn't go into too much detail is to try to not be so specific that I or my wife might be recognised. Well, the front page of Reddit didn't help with that. Thank you all for your comments and feedback. I didn't respond to them, but I did read all of them. The reason her family couldn't donate was that close relatives had some medical issues that prevented them from donating. Examples: high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, heavy drinkers, and more. The further out we tested, the less % of a match. I wanted to be tested because we needed to find someone. The doctor said it would be unlikely, but it wouldn't hurt to try. I was freaking out after I got the news and had to get outside advice. When the doc said that the percentage was abnormally high and that we might be related, I kind of zoned out and started to piece things together in my mind. My parents live 1,000 miles away. They met my in-laws a few times, once at my wedding and when both my children were born. My children are fine. My daughter is incredibly smart for her age. My son is a handful and healthy. The way my adoption worked was when my biological mum gave birth to me, I was checked out and put in a different room. I was there, but don't know how it officially worked. From what my parents explained, they were in that room waiting. They never met my biological mum in person. My bio mum only had a profile and picked them out of many candidates. I called my parents and told them that I needed to know everything they knew about my bio mum. They told me that they had limited knowledge. They said that she was a single mum that was 16 years old. My father was not in the picture. Also, I was born in a hospital 1 hour from where my wife was born. Like I said, limited knowledge. Growing up, I didn't want to find out about my bio parents. To me, my parents were always my parents. I knew I was adopted and that it was a closed adoption. I figure it wouldn't matter long term. I'm not going to do an additional at-home DNA test through any of the traditional testing sites like 23 or Ancestry due to personal reasons, like the possibility of the family finding out. The doc said all of this to only me, with not my wife present. Some of the additional tests were done through the doctor, which was the CM test. I'm not an expert on DNA testing. They said it was like a 1,900 plus CM match. This basically confirms one of my biological parents is one of hers. It can also mean first cousins or aunt or uncle. I'm guessing her dad. When my kids were born, my parents brought photos of me as a baby and commented that I and my son looked a lot like my wife's dad. My son was easily explainable, but all three of us are a different story. I'm not going to bring this up, ever. I might look at my father-in-law differently, but nothing will hopefully change. I hope none of the family goes on Reddit, connects the dots. I'm donating my kidney to my wife. We have started the full process. That takes time and a lot of preparation. I plan on talking to my wife after the surgery and after recovery. We will decide what to do with their kids, if we're going to get them tested or ever tell them. I will not be leaving my wife. I love and will always be there for her. I made vows and I will keep them. I love her more than I would a half-sister. Edit to add, I do plan on telling her after the surgery. She's not doing well and I think this would be even harder on her. I would rather her know that I love her as a husband rather than flip her world upside down right before a life-changing and dangerous surgery if something were to happen. Telling our kids is not a decision I'm going to make on my own. It will be a joint thing after my wife knows. Okay, on to the next update. It's titled, My Wife is Probably My Half-Sister, Part 1. Again, English is my first language, I'm just bad at it. People still think this is fake, and that's okay. It is my life, not yours. In the long term, it only affects my life, and not yours. Okay, first, my wife and I did go through with the transplant. We both are recovering and have recovered well now. My wife is the healthiest she has been since just after our son was born. My profile has all the other posts, but since I posted this on my profile, you most likely are up to date. I've tried to write this update about a gazillion times. Hopefully I can finish this one and not miss anything, and try to give details in order. This will probably be my only update. Thanks to the people who reached out and shared your personal experiences and advice with the transplant. It helped. So I kept to my original plan. I did not tell my wife about the possibility of us being related until after the surgery. Before the surgery, my parents came into town as soon as they could. It really helps having a big family support system like we have. The days leading up to the surgery seemed like just wasn't enough time in the day for everything, with 900 doctor's appointments, getting things prepared for worst case scenarios, researching, setting up my parents and other family in our house to watch our kids, and just spending time together as a family. The doctors were fantastic and laid everything out in a professional but relatable fashion. They answered all the questions and concerns we had leading up to, during, and post-op. There were a ton of questions. It was one of the best feelings, seeing my wife hopeful for the first time in a long time. I knew I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I took that away from her. In the days leading up, I decided I was going to write a letter to my wife if things went bad for me, but she survived. I wrote her 6 pages. I have small handwriting. In it, I told her how much I loved her, how much she changed me from the moment we met, how she was my universe, but also how sorry I was for keeping a secret from her and lying to her. I went into details of what I found out over the last week, how we might be related, and all the evidence. I gave it to my parents to give her if something were to happen to me. But if we both didn't make it, then to read it with my in-laws. I also made other letters. The surgery went well for both of us. They said my organs look mighty fine. The transplant worked out rather quickly for my wife, and her body accepted it. I ended up scratching my eye pretty bad, and they put an eye patch on me. So when I saw my wife for the first time, her first words to me were, "The doctors knew we were here for the kidney, right?" Recovery overall sucks. There was virtually no position that was comfortable. Shout out to the persons who recommended sleeping in a recliner, using stuffed animals my kids picked out as comfortable pillows, and more. I felt like a baby because my wife never complained and was healing well and taking it easy. Me, on the other hand, am not so smart and decided I should go against the doctor's orders, and did not take it easy, and ended up having to go to the ER and have a secondary surgery to repair damages I caused. Please listen to your medical professionals. Okay, now on to My Wife is Probably My Half-Sister Part 2. Now on to what you all really care about. During recovery, my wife got into TikTok and Reddit. Well, after a time, she found a little post that made it way bigger than I ever intended. Looking back, I should have been more careful. During this time, she started to ask more in-depth questions about my adoption. My parents were still at the house at this point. Parents answered all questions. My wife used the excuse of wanting to put a memory book together for our kids, and wanted to include a family history of us growing up, and including our parents who raised us. She knew most of this info but wanted more details. She asked her dad about more details of his childhood, how he met my mother-in-law, and if my mother-in-law was his first relationship. She knew some, but I was learning a lot. Also, reminder, my wife was born when her parents were older teens. I'm older than her. He said no, mother-in-law was not his first relationship. We ended up pulling out his old yearbooks from his high school. He showed us the girl who was his first real relationship. I knew she was probably my biological mum. I could see features that I have in her. He told us fond memories he had of her. He said their relationship ended because of her parents, and he never saw her again. He tried finding out what happened to her, but couldn't, before the internet. Shortly after that, he asked out my mother-in-law, and here we are. We got my father-in-law's side, then my mother-in-law said, "Now let me tell you how it really happened," and proceeded to tell us a different story that was more believable. Nothing about all of this was a red flag indicating that my wife knew my secret, but after that visit I felt extremely guilty. She was healthier than she had been in years, out of the major danger zone, so I had no real excuse not to tell her anymore. It took me 2 additional weeks to finally tell her. She noticed I was acting off and finally asked me if I was okay. I said I needed to talk to her about something serious, possibly life-altering, and potentially a relationship-ending topic, but that I love her and will do absolutely everything she decided from that point forward. She told me that was not a good start to a conversation and asked if I wanted to try again. So I gave her the letter I had written before the surgery. She went from curious, happy, crying, intense concentration, unreadable. In my head, I basically handed her divorce papers, and I would never see her or my kids again. Our life that we have built just got nuked. I'm dramatic in my head. When I get nervous, I pace back and forth. When she finished reading it, she took a moment, then came over to me, stopped me from pacing, said to look at her, smile with a genuine smile, and said, "You are the dumbest, smart person I know," then kissed me. This started a long conversation. She came across my first post after the surgery and found it oddly specific to her situation. Even though I changed some facts and circumstances, she connected the dots. This started her trying to find out if it was true, if I would eventually tell her or continue to hide and hide it from her. She reassured me that it changed nothing in our relationship. She is my wife and I am her husband. She will always have a piece of me with her at all times. She said, like a bunch of comments, that she doesn't view it as wrong because we did not grow up together. We didn't know, and it's a bit too late to back out now. We decided to have our kids do genetic testing when they're more age appropriate, mainly for the unknown from me being adopted. We are not, for now or possibly ever, telling anyone. We also looked up who we now suspect is my biological mum. What we found was that she ended up passing a few years ago due to a drunk driver. Don't drink and drive. But I possibly have 2 other half-sisters, so I have dating options down the road if needed. Wife hit me when I told her this. Kids are doing really well. All they know is that mummy is doing better and enjoying spending more time with her and the extra energy and playfulness that she hasn't had in a while. They are doing really well. So, all in all, the best case scenario happened. The only things I would change is if the doctors tell you to take it easy and give you proper medical advice, follow it. Also, if you are keeping a secret from your wife or significant other, don't. They probably know already, and it's just letting you dig the hole deeper. My wife and I are doing really well. We're probably the closest we've been in a long time. I asked her to marry me again. She said she would think about it, paused for like 5 long seconds, and of course, yes, I will marry you. I'm not as afraid as I was about family finding or seeing this post. I now have a goddess-like force to have my back if I or we ever get questions. We have made contingency plans. Like I said, I probably won't update again. I thank you all. Okay guys, and that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts down below. It's great to see that OP can make light of the situation and make those funny jokes. He seems like a good dude, and yeah, I think the outcome was ultimately the best one. Let's read a few more comments to wrap this one up. Who would guess a post about incest could be so sweet and wholesome? This is going to be more frequent than we know with how unregulated sperm banks are and how much more common it is for people to go that route. I had a brother who was given up for adoption. I didn't know about it, and in my early 20s I dated a man that was quite a few years older than me, and my mum was really weird about it, asking all kinds of weird questions. A decade later, I learned about my brother and met him. We're close now, and my mum came clean about everything, saying she was worried I was dating my brother. That was weird as F. If I had €1 for every incest happily ever after story I read on this sub this week, I'd have €2, which isn't a lot, but it's odd it's happened more than once. Friendly PSA that incest genetics IRL don't work the way movies pretend they do. Outside of very, very specific recessive genetic traits, even full-blooded siblings won't produce disabled offspring. There's still enough genetic variation to allow normal development. It takes at least 2 generations of full-blooded incest to see impairments. So grandma and granddad were siblings and had mum and dad had little Timmy with the issues. Once you start throwing half-siblings and cousins in the mix, it becomes even less of an issue. I'm not suggesting anyone go out into the world with the intent to bang their sister, but with closed adoptions, sperm donations, and the rarity of genetic testing between couples, it's probably a lot more common for OP's situation to happen than anyone realizes, and it doesn't cause most of those families any notable issue. Okay, and do with that information what you will. Anyway, I'm interested to hear your thoughts about that story. In 12 hours, I will get the answer: divorce or open marriage. I gave him an ultimatum, either an open marriage or divorce. I caught my husband of 12 years cheating on me. I do know the girl because she's a part-time cashier at the local grocery store. He's been spending a lot of money on her. I got the proof and confronted his ass. He did what most cheaters do, deny and gaslight. When he couldn't make up more lies, he finally caved and started with his big man tears of, "Don't leave me, baby. I swear I'll change." I gave him options. Either we open our marriage and keep our home and keep our children, and they'll grow up in a house and not shift every weekend. You can keep your side chicks as long as you do not bring them into our home. We'll have a set of rules and boundaries. I laid out all the boundaries and conditions. 1. He cannot spend money from our joint account. He can spend money from his personal expenses. However, in case of emergency, he'll put his family above his side chicks. 2. Never bring them home or into our space where we have our kids. 3. No family members or friends. 4. Always use protection and regular STD checkups. 5. We'll tell each other about the dates and when we are going and who we are with. We do not have to share pictures of our partners. 6. If he gets a woman pregnant, it's the end, and if I get pregnant by another man, I'll either get an abortion or put the kid to adoption. Or if the father agrees, he can keep the baby and I'll sign away my rights. And yes, he is more than welcome to divorce me, and I'll not push him for child support for another man's child. Or we will get a divorce. We will split everything evenly. The house is in my name, so I'll keep the house. We will only contact through parenting app. No bad mouthing to our kids. If our kids want to know the truth later in life, we will tell them. We'll have a healthy co-parenting relationship. He can have as many girlfriends as he wants, but he shouldn't force our children to accept them. It's for our kids to decide. I gave him 48 hours. 12 hours is left. We'll see what he decides. If he cannot, then I'll make the decision for both of us. My decision is divorce. Let's look at the comments. This just sounds like revenge. OP replies, "Because I'm an idiot. This is not the first time he cheated. I forgave him. I found sexting and he blamed it on his sex addiction, and I forgave him because we have children. Even now he blamed it on me that I did not give him sex. I mean, he's a bum and doesn't do his part of the chores. Always complains. So, I gave him what he wants. He wants to have sex with multiple women. I'm giving him that under my condition, so that he cannot blame it on me that I never did anything on the sex part. Knowing him, I know he'll not decide it. I have to take this decision for us, like I always do. Just divorce. Don't do this open marriage option because he won't stick to it." OP says, "You really think he'll agree to the open marriage? I'm already checked out. I'm just giving him a choice so that later he doesn't say I didn't try to make it work or deprived him of sex. He was literally crying and hyperventilating when I brought up the divorce first. He wanted me to give him another chance. I gave him under my condition. He said he'll do anything I ask for." "But it's a cheater's dream scenario." OP replies, "Yes, but on the other hand, he will also have to face the fact that his wife is sleeping with other people. You think if he agrees to an open marriage I'll stay at home and wait for him? No, I'll look into fun outside my marriage. If it was really beneficial for him, he would have said yes when I brought it up. He's still texting me wanting to talk and saying this is not the way. And my most favourite line of all, 'We will go to church,' as if that's going to help." Okay, on to the update. Update, I choose divorce. Well, I gave the verdict before 12 hours was up because I knew he will not choose any of the options and rather gaslight me. I gave him 48 hours. He couldn't decide. He still wanted to talk and see if we could work things out. I told him to pack his stuff and get out. He begged and pleaded. I stood firm. He said if several couples could make it work and whatnot, but I'm not a doormat who will waste several years of her life building a foundation that was already broken. I've contacted my lawyer. I will serve him within this week. I already have the divorce papers ready, but I didn't serve him because I gave him the option of what it's going to be. Soon, our family will know, and I'll not hear anyone who says to give him a chance. I did, and he failed. I don't believe in the cheating makes relationships stronger crap like that one guy in the comments told me. I know I can't even look at him the same way. I'm done being weak and making excuses for him. That's it. I'm sitting in my empty house. My kids are with my mother. I don't know where he is or what he's doing. I guess I knew this would have been the ultimate fate of my marriage, even if we choose open relationship. But I guess I didn't want my kids to come from a broken home. But then again, my kids would have lost it anyways. My mother forgave my dad, and he never cheated. But I knew that in the back of her mind she still had suspicion that my dad was cheating. She never fully trusted him.
No matter how much she said they're okay, and after the incident their love was stronger, no matter how much she was praised for being a strong woman, for giving her husband a second chance, I knew she wasn't fully trusting of my father. He didn't know it, but people around them knew. And she sighed a relief when he died. It just meant she doesn't have to pretend anymore. Sorry, I'm just rambling. I'm a mess right now. I'm just coping by posting on Reddit and talking to internet strangers. The point is, I don't want to live like my mother, worrying where he is, if he really is going to work or not, being a cell guard in my own marriage. I won't lie when I told him I'll get a divorce. I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. Thanks, people.
Alrighty, and that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Yeah, honestly, after reading the first post, I feel like this outcome was kind of inevitable. But yeah, I can understand Opie trying to, cling on to the relationship so her kids don't grow up in a broken family. That's totally understandable. And yeah, the kids are the real victim here. Anyway, give me your thoughts and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was written by a now deleted account, and it's titled, "A private conversation with my husband was leaked to my family, and now they are certain I'm in an abusive relationship and even want to take action against my husband. I need advice on how to deal with this, please. My problem. Hi, this is the throwaway account I made specifically to ask for advice about this matter. Thanks in advance for your advice. Me, 30 female, and my husband, 33 male, got married 5 years ago. We've been together for a total of 8 years. We have a great relationship, we love each other, and he has a great relationship with my family. We both have this game we engage into via text and in the bedroom where we pretend to be. One of our pretend to be is him be like a master, and we engage in this type of talk over texting throughout the day until we end it in the bedroom. Anyway, 2 weeks ago we were doing that. I was out with my little sister and I left my phone with her to take some photos. She likes to use my phone to take pictures whenever we're together. Anyway, a text from him came using this language we use, something like, "Don't forget to do this thing, you be. I better come and find you ready." Anyway, instead of asking me about this, she opened the texting app and saw previous messaging, snapped a photo of this part of the conversation with her cell phone. The next day, Mum called me and told me to come at once. I went and found my mum, my dad, my sister, my brother, and my uncle. My mum was crying and saying she's sorry, she didn't see it before, and my dad was angry. I didn't understand anything, but when they told me, I was furious with my sister and them. I told them nothing of what they're saying is true. My husband is a great man, and this is a sexual fantasy we sometimes play. The problem is, they think I'm lying. My sister is a social worker, and she's convinced without a doubt that I'm lying, like all the women she sees in her business to protect my husband, because I love him. No matter what I tell them, they don't believe me. I even took my mum to my room and got naked in front of her, for her to see that I'm not being abused in any way, but it's like I'm talking to walls. My sister is using her career to convince everybody that I'm being abused. I even gave my mum my phone and made her read the texts and private conversations between me and my husband, and I humiliated myself by making her read those intimate conversations about our kinks and role-playing, etc. She was disgusted at first, but didn't say anything. Then she talked to my sister and came back to me saying that my sister has seen behaviour like this with abuse victims, where I'm so brainwashed that I don't see how engaging in these types of activities is abuse, and that my husband has groomed me so I don't see the abuse he's making. And when I told her that BDSM was originally my suggestion, she yelled, "Please stop protecting him, we didn't raise you to be like that." My sister is not a bad person per se. I believe that because of what she sees in her work, she thinks that I'm suffering and projecting onto me. I don't know what to do now. My husband knew about it a couple of days ago. My brother went to his workplace and made a scene in front of everyone, and now at work there are talks about him abusing me because of my brother's words. I don't know what to do right now. My husband says we should go no contact with my family, since they won't believe anything we say. I told them that we should go to another state. We were planning to start a family and have kids, and with that happening, I don't believe it'd be great to have a family where we live right now, where such rumours are held over our head. So a new place where no one knows us would be perfect for us. But my husband says if we did that, it'd appear that he forced me to run with him, and would enforce these ideas more into my family. Can anyone offer me any advice, please? What should we do?
Important. My husband does not abuse me. I'm not in an abusive relationship that I can't see. What happens between the two of us sexually is consensual. This game we play, I was the one who initiated it and suggested it. He doesn't abuse me nor forces me to do anything. The idea to go to another state was my idea, not his. He wants to remain here and face these allegations head on. The only thing he did was he went no contact with them because the amount of harassments he's been getting from them. Last night my mother called me and asked whether I confronted my husband or not. I told her there's nothing to confront, as nothing happened and I'm not being abused. She said that's what my sister told her I might say, because that's what abuse victims do. And if I didn't make a stand, they'll go to the authorities and report my husband. I'm now terrified. My husband already is getting some eye glances from his co-workers now, since my brother confronted him there, and they already think he abuses me. I don't know what to do honestly. Even if I went to a legal advisor, I don't know how that would help at the moment with this situation. Edit. This is not a case of my family just shaming me for my kinks. If it was only shaming, then I'd have no problem and could handle it. It's a case of my family convinced by my sister that my husband is abusing me, and me being brainwashed to see that BDSM is him abusing me, and now they want to file reports against him. My father even stated that just like he, my husband, abuses me, he wants to destroy him like he destroyed me. Because my sister, the social worker, planted in their heads that me defending my husband is the typical way an abuse victim feels, just like Stockholm Syndrome, and that I should be saved and sent to therapy. Okay, let's check out some advice in the comments. As a social worker, your sister should know how volatile of a scenario she has just created. Even if you were a victim of abuse, safety planning needs to be a constant and consensual practice. You cannot simply save a person without their eager and consistent consent, and what she's doing could be considered a violation of her professional status as social worker. I would look into whether she is officially registered with the College of Social Workers in your area, and going low or no contact might be a good thing for now, especially if the flames aren't dying down. I'm really sorry this is happening. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Your family is overbearing. Your husband is right to want to stay and face it. Otherwise, you would essentially be in hiding. This is a turning point in your relationship with your family and a perfect time to set boundaries. Step 1. File a police report about the brother showing up at your workplace. Step 2. Make sure you send this or something similar in writing, preferably as a group text to everyone in your family, mother, father, sister, brother. Quote, "My sister has invaded my privacy in regards to my intimate relationship with my husband. Now that it's out, we are engaged in a consensual BDSM relationship. It is our personal business and none of yours. I've tried to explain multiple times that I'm not being abused, manipulated, or controlled in any way. Your refusal to accept that is not my responsibility, nor my concern. If you continue to harass myself and my husband, or put our careers or any other aspect of our lives in jeopardy, I will be forced to cut off contact with you. My husband isn't abusing me, but all of you are out of some misplaced sense of valor. I understand you think you're doing the right thing, but in reality, you are jeopardizing my family and my career. Please do research on what BDSM is, and if you would like to talk about it, we can. It has been brought to the forefront thanks to the mass media and the 50 Shades series, and I highly recommend you read into and understand it. There is a large community wrapped around this lifestyle. You don't have to like it or understand it, but any further allegations of abuse from any of you will result in an ended conversation. If they continue, I will be forced to cut off contact with you. I will not be harassed by family members who do not understand my lifestyle or a sister who thinks she is everyone's savior. If I were in an abusive relationship, don't you think it would make sense to make sure I was safe before confronting my husband? Realistically, the sister could probably benefit from some remedial training in her field. I love you all and appreciate what you're trying to do, but you are wrong, and I am henceforth taking a zero-tolerance policy regarding any crap talking about my husband. If you file charges, and I have to obtain an attorney to fight them, I will absolutely cut off contact permanently. I will not tolerate any further threats to my family, but I will be happy to answer any questions or concerns as long as they are expressed with respect.
End quote.
Screenshot this text, keep it. Make sure you print off copies in case anything happens to the electronic copy. Screenshot and print any replies. Do not answer any calls for the remainder of the day. Your husband should go completely no contact with them if possible until this is settled. Step 3. File an attorney. Have one ready. You may be in for a fight, but the truth is it doesn't matter if the state presses charges. Without your testimony, or with you testifying directly against the charges, they will likely end up being dropped. Yeah, pretty well written message from that commenter there. I'd be surprised if Opie doesn't do something like that. Okay, let's look at the updates. My family filed a police report accusing my husband of domestic abuse. I had a visit from the police, and they kept asking me whether I'm being abused or not. I kept saying I'm not, and since one of the cops is a friend of my brother, she kept telling me to come clean. And don't worry, he won't be able to hurt me anymore when I talk. It was so much that I asked them to leave, and not to speak to me again without our lawyer present. She gave me her card, told me to call her any time my husband tries to hurt me again, and that she'll be checking on me to make sure I'm okay. I called my lawyer, and me and my husband will be meeting with her first thing tomorrow morning. She advised us to not speak to the police again, since in our state BDSM is not legal. The reason for that is that according to the law, you can't consent to receive pain via any activities like hitting or rough sex, and also using restraints during sex makes the person restrained in the eyes of the law unable to consent, even if they say they're consenting to be tied. So yeah, most of the time, the police understands the BDSM community and knows that it's not abuse. However, their understanding is not arresting people engaging in BDSM as a courtesy. If a police officer decided to follow the law to the T, they'd arrest the person engaged in the BDSM act, the one who's in charge, the dom or the master. So she advised us not to speak to any of my family members nor the police until she met us both and established a way of protecting my husband. As for my husband, his boss at work told him that the family and some friends of the family are calling them, telling them how can they, the company, hire a wife beater and abuser, and if he can't solve these issues and if it keeps escalating, he'll have to fire him since they don't want to associate the company with any of that. Update 2. Those past 15 days have been hell. After my family called the police on my husband and they came to our house, things took a turn for the worst. We live in a relatively small town and most people know each other, so news travelled fast that I'm in an abusive relationship and my husband abuses me. Our lawyer advised us not to speak to the police and also not to mention to anyone at all that we're engaged in BDSM activities. The reason for that is that according to the law you can't consent to receive pain via any activities like hitting or rough sex, and also using restraints during sex makes the person restrained in the eyes of the law and unable to consent, even if they say they consented. So if we mention to someone that we engage into BDSM and they went to the police, our words act like a confession or something like that. And yes, police most of the time do not follow the law to the T regarding BDSM, because they know the law is flawed in this aspect. However, if they want, for example, to ruin someone's life, they can then follow the law and arrest that person. You get what I'm trying to say. Everyone in my family now knows that my husband abuses me, and the reason that he hasn't been arrested yet is because I'm too, quote, afraid to come forward, and there's no physical evidence. So my entire family is now pressuring me. My husband was confronted by one of my cousins, and they exchanged fists outside of a local shop. They were both arrested, but my husband stayed locked up for some time, and my brother's friend, the officer that came to our home, roughed him up pretty bad there, calling him a wife beater and an animal and all other vile words. As I mentioned, the word got around very fast, and a week and a couple of days ago, my husband was fired from his job. Our lawyer told us we can sue the company, but my husband refused since the only thing he wants now is to move to another state and put this nightmare behind him. Our lawyer issued a restraining order against almost all of my family members, including my mum, dad, brother and sister, and she made sure that these orders specify that they can't even contact my husband at all, even via texts or emails. My husband since then was preparing himself to move away, and last night he went to another state. He'll be staying with one of his childhood friends till he finds a place to rent. He told me to stay for a bit and not follow him right away, because he needs a break from everything. That I don't really understand. I was abused just like him, but whatever. Of course, all of this drove a big wedge between me and him. and a couple of nights before we got into a fight. Then he said to me that if I didn't suggest and encourage him to get into BDSM with me, none of these things would have happened, and we both exchanged some hurtful words. Well, now he's in another state. He doesn't pick up my calls since yesterday. He just texted me that he's at his destination and safe. Before he left, he told me that if I choose to follow him, he will never engage in any kind of BDSM activity with me again. Never ever again. And that I need to think about it clearly to decide if I want to remain married to him or not without those activities, especially that I was the one who pushed for them before. I really don't understand why he's punishing me like that. It's not like I had anything to do in this crap show. Anyway, that's the situation right now. I'm here and he's there, and I have a lot of thinking and decisions to make. My family all are sending me texts to congratulate me that I pushed him away. I keep sending them back to leave me alone and never contact me again. Finally, I want to thank every one of you for your support, and I wish that no one ever encounters anything like what happened to me, ever. I wish you all a happy life. Sorry if my thoughts are all scattered, but I'm in a really bad place. I just decided to write and vent here. Maybe I can feel some sort of relief doing that. Update 3. My husband opened his phone and sent me this one message, then closed it once again. Quote, "Please stop trying to reach me. I don't want to talk to you. I'm okay and well. By the way, I changed my place to another one, so don't call my friend. I'm not staying at his place, and I don't want you to know where I am right now. I don't feel like talking to you or anyone that we know for some time. Respect that, and stay the F away. I don't know when I'll be able to speak to you again, and I won't blame you or even question if you filed for divorce right now. I think it'll be great for everyone, and will make your family happy." End quote. After this message, he closed his phone. He deactivated all of his social media accounts yesterday, and I don't have any way to know how to reach him. I honestly don't know now what I should do. I called his friend, the one he was supposed to stay at, and he told me he booked a ticket to another state the same night, but didn't tell him where he was going, and didn't give him any contact information. So now, I don't even know where he's at to follow him and complete our plan of leaving this hell place. I don't know anything right now. Update 4, the last update. My husband doesn't want to continue with me. He'll file for a divorce and I'll receive my papers through my lawyer. I can't reach him anymore. I'll be moving out of my town to a new place that I managed to rent in another place out of state. I'll be changing all of my numbers, and social media accounts have been deactivated. The only person who can contact me is my lawyer to forward me my divorce papers once they arrive. I won't be posting any more about this issue, as it's now over for me, and I want to throw it all behind my back. Thanks for anyone who sent me sincere advice, and the ones who are attacking me via comments and DMs, thanks as well. I know you're hurting in real life, and this is your only way to feel validated. I wish you find happiness in your real life. Okay folks, and that's the end of that story. A bit of a downer ending, but you could kind of see it coming for a while there, I think. But yeah, sad. If only people like the sister there could be held accountable for doing things like that. Like they're so caught up and obsessed with helping someone that they don't actually listen to that person that they're trying to help. Yeah, it's frustrating to hear about. Anyway, I'd like to know your thoughts about that one. Let me know down below. Either way, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.